The hour at 10 o'clock's gone. I don't know. I think we got a good group here. Yeah. So we're good. Get started here. So we'll right? Got my swag.
That's awesome.
I love that. Get started here. How's Arkansas? Good morning, everybody. I think we've got a good group of folks this morning, and we've got an ambitious schedule to have a listening session as it relates to the reauthorization of the 2023 Farm Bill that the Congress will take as action on next year in the next Congress. But in the meantime, we are having listening sessions throughout the country. And as the chairman of the subcommittee on livestock and foreign agriculture, I absolutely indicated that we had to have a listening session here in California. And I couldn't think of any better place than at my alma mater here at Fresno State. Go Dogs, right? Part of the Mountain West, but who knows, maybe part of the Pac-10 soon to be. So I'm putting a plug in there. But we're glad to have representatives from throughout the valley here, and I'll go into more detail about that. But I would be remiss if we did not begin by giving an opportunity for the president of our university here, Fresno State, to welcome us all at the campus and the important work that this campus does. And I want to brag a little bit. It's one of the premier universities, I think, in the West. Certainly, the Ag School is absolutely well known for all of the academic product that it produces. We're on 2,000 acres. People forget the farm is right here. And not only the area efforts with the dairy and the viticulture, but the specialty crops, the ag science, the ag business, all of that is an important reflection of the #1 agricultural state in the nation. So it's fitting and appropriate that we do it here at the university. President Saul Jimenez Sandoval, my friend, the 9th president of Fresno State University, think about it, founded in 1911. And there's been 9 presidents of the university at California at Fresno State. So we're very proud of that fact. The president will go on to talk about all the other incredible things, the Crimmins School of Education, providing master's programs, the Sid and Jenny Gregg School of Business, the engineering school, the list goes on and on and on. 25,000 students, of which over 70% are the first in their family to go to university. Think about that. This university is doing what it's supposed to do here in our valley and in California, and we're so proud of it. So, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome, and he will give us a great greeting. The president of Fresno State University, home of the Bulldogs, President Saul Jimenez Sandoval. President, Mr. President.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much for that, and it's great to welcome you all to Fresno State. Fresno State, as Congressman Costa said, is the premier university, not only in the region, but also in the West. And I want to thank and recognize Congressman Costa for his leadership on issues that are so important to our agricultural community as well. As somebody who grew up in a farm, and as somebody who has really a strong pulse of what's happening with agriculture in the region, this is an especially important meeting for me. Because agriculture in our Central Valley is the backbone of our economy. Think about it, 60% of everything we do economically here in the Valley is based on agriculture, and the other 40% is directly tied to that 60%. So with that, this is the type of forum that we need in order to really press the issues of water, labor, that are so pressing to our farmers today, but not only to our farmers, but also to our community as well. Food supply of California is now, of course, a national security issue, which, of course, is going to become also an international security issue. So more and more, the Central Valley is going to take a premier central role in what the future of California is going to become. We represent 1% of ag land in the U.S., and yet we produce 25% of all agricultural products. That's it right there. But the other counterpart to that, of course, is that by the year 2050, we will be 9 billion people in the world, and we will have to produce 60% more food. 60% more food, that's quite a challenge for us. And the challenge then is exactly what we need to take on right now. This is our time, this is our moment in order to become aware of the value that the Central Valley provides, not only to ourselves, to California, to the United States, but to the world as well. It's ours, this is our value. And that value, of course, comes with a prize. The prize then needs to be, again, those two main issues of water and labor. How do we resolve this issue then? We resolve it by better engineering. With better engineering in the farm, we get better products. We get more production in the farm. But at the same time, we also need better laws. We also need better legislation. We also need better policy that speaks to the reality of the farm and of the community. It's the community at the end that's at the stake of all of this. With this in mind, then, the Central Valley is crucial, I'm going to say, not only to the region, but to California and to the United States. It's crucial to the future of California. There is no California without the Central Valley, and there is no California without the ag of the Central Valley. As a premier university, like the Congressman said, in the top agricultural region in the world, we are the most productive region in the entire world. What we have here is something so unique, so unique. You see other parts of the world, there are small farmers who are trying to produce, but they just don't quite do it because we have an incredible history of agriculture here, an incredible knowledge of agriculture here. Within this, then, the reputation of Fresno State for applied research on agriculture and water are uniquely positioned to lead in strategies that directly address the issues facing our farmers. And again, this has to do with these two pillars that I'm going to present to you today. On the one hand, it's engineering. Better engineering in the farm means more production in the farm. And on the other hand, we have to speak about policy, of course. So with that, it's my honor then to welcome you to Fresno State, and it's my honor now to give the forum to Congressman Costa. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. We've just heard from the big dog, home of the Fresno State Bulldogs, and President Saul, you are doing a terrific job, and thank you very much for the leadership you provide for our university and all the schools contained within the university campus. And we obviously have a partnership and a friendship that speaks well of the president, and he gives me directions. And we were very proud Tuesday with Secretary Jenny Moffitt to announce a $20 million grant to the university to deal with dairy sustainability. And so it's a good fit with the university, and it was good news to have her out here. Of course, she's no stranger here. And Karen Ross wanted to be here, and I think she's got someone from the food board here, although I've not seen Don Cameron here, but I know that he was going to try to be here. And but obviously, Karen Ross does a terrific job on behalf of representing California agriculture and the governor. I want to kind of lay out the rules here so we understand before I make a few comments on how we're going to proceed. We begin precisely at 10 o'clock, and we will go until 1 o'clock. That is the plan. On behalf of the House Agricultural Committee Chairman David Scott from Georgia, I am pleased to chair this official committee listening session entitled 2022 Review of the Farm Bill, Perspectives from the Field, which all of you represent, but in my view, setting the table, literally and figuratively, the table that feeds America for the 2023 Farm Bill reauthorization. And I try my level best every day to be a strong advocate on behalf of not only California, but American agriculture, because food, as we all know, is a national security issue, as President Jimenez Sandoval indicated. The listening session will be to hear from you, what's working and what's not working with programs. This is my fourth Farm Bill reauthorization since coming to Congress. And I want to hear, and the committee staff that is here wants to hear, where you think we can make improvements in the 2023 Farm Bill reauthorization. Obviously, we represent the #1 agricultural state in the nation. Almost half the nation's fruits and vegetables, 20% of the dairy products in America, #1 in citrus production, 70% of the world's almonds, 50% of the world's pistachios. The list goes on and on and on, with over 300 commodities that we produce here in California, making us the #1 agricultural state. And on any given year, depending upon prices at the farm gate, it's a $46 to $50 billion a year industry. But we're going through difficult times, as we know. The three biggest challenges that we face, of course, is a reliable supply of water, a reliable supply of labor, and markets that have been constrained as a result of supply chain issues that provide a level playing field so that we can trade. And the Farm Bill has been modified over decades, but it's basically a safety net for American agriculture. My initials are JC, and I wish I could make it rain, but we have extreme drought conditions, and we have parts of our water system that are just not working right. They're broken. And we ought to be able to get a bipartisan immigration reform package, but that's remained elusive as well. And we're working very closely with the administration to fix, we're not there yet, but to fix the problems that we have with our ability to get ships to export our products. 44% of California's agriculture is exported, 44% roughly. And if we can't get our products on these ships out of West Coast ports and otherwise, it's not fair trade. So these are among the major issues affecting, obviously, California agriculture, but affecting the entire country. So the safety net of the Farm Bill is critical to deal with a lot of these other related issues. We have multiple microphones that are set up here that we will listen from our witnesses. Hopefully you've all signed in on the cards, the note cards. Hopefully, if you haven't grabbed one, you'll go over. We have staff there. You'll grab one. If you'd like to speak, I hope you'll all be able to speak, because I'm here to listen. The cards ask for a bit of information that will help us organize the speaking order, and the staff will provide me that speaking order. And we'll ask you to fill out the note card and hand it back to the staff as soon as possible. They're going through them to organize them in speaking order. What I'm principally interested in is the 12 titles in the Farm Bill. And I see a lot of agriculturalists here, but they involve commodity programs, including dairy, conservation, Title II, Title III, trade, Title IV nutrition programs, and I see a number of our nutrition advocates who are here, and I'm looking forward to hearing their comments as well. My constituency, the 16th district, ranks number 2. It's a real contradiction of sorts. One of the largest, wealthiest agricultural areas in the entire country, therefore the world. But yet 24% of my constituencies are on SNAP, on food stamps. Working poor, young and old alike, and everyone in between. So it's an interesting contrast when you think about it. So nutrition programs are critical. Credit, farming's risky as it is, and Commodity Credit Corporation and providing insurance for us to have a safety net when prices are down are critical. Rural development, we got to do more in rural development. We are making advances in broadband and other areas, but more needs to be done. Title VII, research and related matter, land grants, a lot of research that's going on. Title VIII, forestry. We've seen the fires that have taken place that have been a result of a combination of factors, drought, climate change, and the air quality that I forget what university is outside of California, noted that 2021 were the worst air quality years in California history as a result of the fires. Now, the good news is, and I've talked with Secretary Vilsack about this, we're getting additional funding for the U.S. Forest Service. It's under the USDA. And I hope that in the next 3 years, we're going to do a better job in managing our forests. And I think we've got some people here that want to talk about that. Title IX, energy. Title X, horticulture. Title 11, I'm sorry, I combined both the commodity credit issue and crop insurance, but Title 11 is crop insurance, and Title 12 is miscellaneous. So we're looking forward to hearing on all of the above on those areas. I think it's important that we hear your thoughts. The information from this listening session will become a part of the record. It will become a part of the record for the new Farm Bill, and as such, we require that you gather your name and your contact information, and when you begin your comments, please repeat your name and who you're representing and your contact. And we ask this because we're live streaming this. So the cameras you see here are being live streamed through the Ag Committee's YouTube channel, and it will also be available for viewing later on. So as I said, we have enough time to go until 1 o'clock, which should be, I think, a good conversation. I'm going to try and have Alexa Fox here, who's on my staff and has on her portfolio agriculture, among many other things. And for everybody who's going to be speaking, I want you to go through this carefully now. We're going to try to keep it to 3 minutes. Raise the 3 minute sign. There we go. That's 3 minutes. That's your start. Then when you're down to 1 minute, she'll put this up, and you got 1 minute. And then the last one, do 10 minutes, and 10 seconds, excuse me. You probably would like to have 10 minutes, but it'll be 10 seconds. And then we'll try to wind up in an orderly fashion. So we hope to get through this as effectively and as efficiently as we possibly can. But we want to hear about your interest in the reauthorization of the 2023 Farm Bill. And I may ask you some questions. I'm known to do that on occasion. To get a little more detail. Anyway, let me just, and do we have the order in the first group that we're going to have? Okay, you have them here? Mm-hmm. So why don't we have them come up at this point in time? I think we've got 4 chairs here. Do we have 4, or we have 3 at this time? Okay, Jeffrey Vanderheuvel, please come forward. Kurt Gilkey, Mark McKean, and for those, all of them? Oh, one more. And Daniel Roddenberry. So Melvin Medeiros. We got 5. Okay. I saw Melvin earlier. Where's Melvin? Oh, okay. And Daniel, we'll just get another chair. This chair over here. We've got 5 chairs there. Or figure out. It's not complicated. As you're getting seated and getting ready to go, I probably don't think I need to introduce myself, but I'm Jim Costa. I'm your congressman for many of you here in the Valley. Like many of you, I'm a local guy, local schools, Houghton Kearney Elementary, San Joaquin Memorial. In Fresno State, I'm a third-generation family farmer. That is my primary source of income, and I'm very proud of that fact. But I don't farm the way my father did, and my father didn't farm the way his father did. And the incredible thing about those of you who put food on America's dinner table every night is that you understand that change is constant. And change is hard, but change is constant. And that's why we've been able to remain competitive as the #1 agricultural state. My subcommittee that I chair focuses on livestock, dairy, trade, animal health, and international food assistance. And with this invasion, this horrific invasion of Russia to Ukraine, Samantha Powers thinks with the constraints that we may see as many as 20 million people this year die of famine in Northern Africa and the Middle East. And of course, but I was a part of a German Marshall Fund conference last week, and I said, you know, with regards to food security, which is what we're concerned about here, this is just a precursor. If there had not been the invasion, we would still, in the next 10 years, the question of food stability and the availability with the impacts of climate change are going to really make a difference as to whether or not we can feed 9 billion people in this planet by the middle of the century. We got a little over 7 billion. Some perspective, 200 years ago, we had 1.7 billion people. And so I really believe with the combination of factors that we're dealing with and the increased world population, that in the next 10 years, whether or not nation states can live together amicably is going to depend upon the availability of us managing the impacts of climate change and having water to grow our food. We all know here in the Valley where water flows, food grows. So we're very interested in the stakeholder focus here, the programs from nutrition to conservation to rural development, forestry, and many other issues. So please share your thoughts. And this is the second in the listening series. They were in Arizona, I believe, last week. We thank you for your input. So let me also introduce Blang Zhang. If he'll stand, please. He's with the USDA Farm Service Agency. He's the state executive director. Many of us know Blang when he was on the city council in Fresno. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your good work as executive director for the USDA Farm Service Agency. And there may be some other folks that have various roles and titles, and I will introduce you as I recognize you or someone tells me you're here. So without that, without any further ado, I think I've spoken more than I should have. But I'm really looking forward to hearing the comments. And so let us begin with Dan Roddenberry here. So you got 3 minutes to give us your best thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to these hearings. I think they're extremely beneficial. And Jimmy, I know you've covered a lot of these topics over the time, but as we move into this drought, a lot of things that weren't thought about in the past are certainly up in front of us now on it. And particularly with this
Dan,
drought.
excuse me, President, please identify yourself and who you're representing here this morning.
I'm Dan Roddenberry. I'm representing probably a lot of organizations I'm on, but primarily on the water interests of Westlands and all growers who have these similar issues.
Now, I know you wear multiple hats.
But no particular one. And so under the new Farm Bill should include new programs for ecosystem restoration in the West. There is a direct nexus between ag production and water availability. ecosystem restoration can improve the water supplies and water supply reliability. The current volunteer agreement that has been proposed by the state of California is a good example of that idea, and we hope the Farm Bill can include fundings for these programs that stretch out not only in the Delta estuary that a lot of the water projects depend on, but also forest management that is, as we've seen in these large fires, it doesn't become unknown to a lot of people that obviously restoration should be, or management, forest management that helps not only kill fires, but do better yield of water into the reservoirs that we all become dependent on, and particularly as climate changes become front and center to our conversation. And with all the crops that we grow, and much of them are high percentages of the U.S. supplies and the world supplies, it makes it more important that agriculture gets considered as a food security question on it. SGMA is on our doorstep, and it's becoming urgent that more investment in kind of a long-term certainty of water supplies that supply much of our crops become the issue on it. The stress in the family farm is pretty real here. You only have to look at the changing demographics of farming families, to a lot of them are non-family, to tell you that the stress is fairly high. So I appreciate the opportunity to make comments, and then if any questions, let me know.
Well, thank you, Dan, always for your participation. What are you, third generation now?
I am third generation.
Yeah, and we want to keep the fourth generation going. And I spoke with Secretary Vilsack about the issue on the forestry and the impacts, not just on the air quality and the fire, but the loss of water. We estimated last year that because of the growth of lack of management of our forests, we lost about 700,000 acre-feet of water last year, and we could sure use that this year.
Well, and I was going to suggest that, with SGMA in full implication, they're talking about maybe following 1 million acres just to comply. So it's a pretty big deal.
No, it is. And but the good news is in the USDA's budget under forestry, we've provided about $2.3 billion for forest management each year for the next 3 years. So anyway, no, this is on my time, Alexa, so it's part of the conversation we're having. Vilsack understands, and I've told him this last year, that we've done a poor job, in my opinion, in the last couple of decades. It doesn't matter which administrations, in managing our forests, and we got to do a much better job. And we now got some resources to do it, and we've got a guy from California who's heading the U.S. Forest Service who's very familiar with the problems we've had here with fires. So hopefully we're going to make improvements there.
Thank you.
Next is another family farming operation that I've known for many years, knew my family growing up in the large metropolitan area called Corcoran. Kurt Gilkey. Kurt?
Good morning, Chairman Costa again, and good morning, everyone. My name is Kurt Gilkey, and I'm a third-generation cotton farmer in Corcoran, California, which is in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley and about 60 miles directly south of this location. My grandparents immigrated from Canada to Corcoran in 1922, and the Gilkey family just celebrated 100 years of farming in Corcoran. I want to thank you for holding these hearings, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to briefly speak on some issues that are important to maintaining the viability of my family farming operation. I believe that farming is an honorable profession. I believe farming and agriculture in general should be a valued industry in California and across the entire United States. Sometimes, especially in California, I think the value of agriculture is overlooked. Farmers are very effective environmentalists, as the green plants and crops that we grow consume carbon dioxide and produce oxygen every day. The U.S. ag industry is the most responsible and high-producing farmers in the world. American producers minimize inputs and maximize yield, leading to a smaller carbon footprint. Hopefully, the 2023 Farm Bill will remain strong for all agriculture. And as I'm here today representing cotton, I'm hopeful that the 23 Farm Bill will continue to support all cotton in the United States, including extra long staple or Pima cotton. As producers, as you mentioned, we must have an effective safety net. This includes all commodity policy that provides either price or revenue protection for the prolonged periods of low prices and depressed market conditions. We producers need a continued non-recourse marketing loan to help with effective marketing and cash flow. This bill should also include a strong and fully accessible array of crop insurance products that producers across the Cotton Belt with different needs can purchase and tailor for their risk management. Federally supported prevent planting insurance has been very important to growers in this area due to the natural and legislative drought California currently endures. There are important policy issues for extra long staple, ELS or Pima cotton, which is grown mostly in California, but also in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Overall, the ELS Cotton Competitiveness Program and the ELS Loan Program should be maintained with potential enhancements in the next Farm Bill. The 2018 Farm Bill raised ELS loan rate from 82 cents per pound to 95 cents per pound. This rate should be examined and potentially increased in the 2023 bill. You've heard or will hear about the fact that fuel and fertilizer have more than doubled in price over the past year, putting more pressure and adding more challenges to the American cotton industry along with all agriculture in the United States. Maintaining or increasing the ELS loan rate will help Pima producers face these challenges. Since the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, there have been several forms of federal assistance and programs provided to the agriculture industry outside the Farm Bill construct. Whether it was assistance to address weather-related crop disasters, as well as price declines due to COVID-19 pandemic, or trade retaliatory measures, two things are certain. They all were necessary for various regions and commodities, and they were separate from the Farm Bill because the existing Farm Bill policies and programs were not fully meeting the extraordinary and unpredictable needs and challenges faced by U.S. agriculture. As I mentioned earlier, producers across the Cotton Belt face dramatic increases in production costs. These input increases weaken traditional farm policy and crop insurance tools that protect revenue and against yield losses. These sharp increases translate into a significant decline in the effective safety net offered by the price loss coverage reference price. Considering the big increases in production input costs, the PLC reference price needs to be evaluated. As Congress plans the path forward for the 2023 Farm Bill, additional funding is necessary to address the challenges both on the farm and throughout the supply chain. With these new challenges, American farmers need a Farm Bill that has the resources to ensure that we remain viable and the American people and the world have a safe, reliable, responsible, and affordable supply of food and fiber. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you all for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gilkey, and I was a little generous on your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
But I think the points are well taken. Certainly, this Russia's invasion in Ukraine has impacted fertilizer costs, among other input costs that we are seeing. And, you know, I've seen it in my own bills and stuff. So the input costs, and of course, the incredible diversity that we have here in California. I remember when back in the 90s, we had, I think, at the height, 1.4 million acres of cotton in California, and today it's, I think, something around 170,000 plus or minus. It's less than 200,000, 150,000.
Yeah, 125.
Yeah, well, it takes water to grow cotton, and obviously that's been a challenge. But, you know, the PEMA, I mean, different from the Acela that we used to grow years ago, and now we have organic cotton being grown. And so, again, change is constant, and for all of you on your testimony, and we do want to try to keep it to 3 minutes, if you can submit the written testimony, and we will use that as well as we're setting the table. And I intend to have separate conversations with the communities here that are representing the different interests in the different Farm Bill titles over the course of the next 5-6 months, so that when next year comes around, we're prepared, and I can do my very best job to represent all of your interests as we go forward. Another family, what are you, third, fourth generation, Mark McKean?
Third.
I remember your father well, but please begin with your testimony.
Thank you, Congressman. I'm a third-generation farmer. I farm in southwestern Fresno County with my wife and 2 sons. We farm quite an array of different crops there, and both permanent and row crops. Thank you for holding this listening session. California and virtually all parts of the West are suffering from historic drought conditions, as you have mentioned. Farmers in our state and others are not only facing this issue due to Mother Nature, but also due to severely restricted state and federal water allocations. Couple this together with Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and productive farmland is being fallowed. We are fallowing land on our own farm. This year we will receive between 0 and a 10% allocation of water on our different farms. Farmers are always optimistic, otherwise we wouldn't be farmers. I am optimistic that what we are seeing today will improve in the future. Moving forward, it is critical that prevented plant coverage is maintained in crop insurance. We will also need additional flexibility with Prevent Plant. The current 1 in 4 rule implemented by USDA's Risk Management Agency in regards to Prevent Plant dampens that optimism when it comes to insuring crops. The 1 in 4 rule requires a grower to insure, plant, and harvest a crop in 1 out of the last 4 years to be eligible for prevented plant insurance. This is extremely problematic due to the current drought facing the West. The 1 in 4 was originally created for farmland that was never really farmed or farmable due to being too wet. Unfortunately, this rule is expanded to include drought. We have extremely productive farmland, and it has a long history of being so. If this drought lasts longer than the arbitrary number chosen by RMA, we will start losing this coverage unless a change is made, at least for our irrigated crops. I have 2 more specific issues I wanted to talk about. Under the EQIP, SWEEP, and other programs, growers cannot start construction or implementation of a project or practice until notified by NRCS that the project is funded. Many times this notice is months, if not years, in the coming. Producers simply cannot wait that long for a decision. I ask that the producers need only to complete the application before starting the project or practice. This would allow for the orderly progression of projects and not hold producers hostage as they try to continue their farming operations. I realize the port issue is not a Farm Bill issue per se, however, an important issue to many other commodities. Although there is some improvement, exporting commodities is still an issue. We don't need promises here. We need direct action that solves the problem. And I want to thank you for being here today, Congressman.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, and your testimony is well taken. The issue with the problems that relates to the qualification standards, I will look at that with regards to IRMA. That's important that we take that into account. And I raised the issue with USDA on the coverage on the 2020 fire disaster. They included it in 21, but not in 2020. And I think when you look at the histories that we've had of fires during the last 4 years, you need to go back at least until 2020. So a lot of these issues are regional, and we need to, you are well taken to point that out. And on the supply chain issue, and we'll talk, I suspect, some more, and you're right, it's not part of the reauthorization, but Vilsack and I have had numerous conversations. The White House has put together a committee of 3 secretaries, transportation, agriculture, and commerce. And the pop-up ports, I think, is a good concept, but it's not fully operational. And we had some folks on Tuesday tell Undersecretary Moffett what we needed to do to improve and to get these pop-up ports working in a way that could ensure that we have containers that we can fill to get our products to market. But we're still working on it. So thank you very much. Our next witness is a gentleman I've also had the honor and pleasure to work with going back to my days in Sacramento. A dairy farmer who's got a smile on his face because he sold his dairy, and he's doing a little consulting now, moved from Chino Valley to Visalia. Jeffrey Vanderheuvel, who's well known on issues related to water and dairy. Mr. Vanderheuvel.
Well, thank you, Chairman Costa, and thanks for the opportunity to participate in this Farm Bill listening session. My name is Jeff Vandenheuvel, and I'm the Director of Regulatory and Economic Affairs for Milk Producers Council, which is a California dairy farmer trade association founded in 1949. As you mentioned, prior to taking this position, I was an active dairy farmer in Southern California for 39 years. Given the limited time available this morning, I want to focus on two things in particular that are relevant to the upcoming Farm Bill discussion. First is on the safety net programs for dairy. The Dairy Margin Coverage Program is a very good safety net tool, but the vast majority of the benefit of the program is concentrated in the first 5 million pounds of milk a dairy farmer produces annually. 5 million pounds is about what 250 cows produce.
Which doesn't work very well in California.
Exactly. Dairy farms in California are much larger than that on average, and so while they receive coverage for a small part of their production through this program, the DMC fails as a safety net for most California dairy farms. We understand the financial and political constraints of raising the benefit level significantly higher than the 5 million pounds. We accept DMC at the 5 million pounds, and we would oppose raising it any further. On the other hand, the Dairy Revenue Protection Program, a subsidized crop insurance program overseen by USDA's Risk Management Agency, and which came into being in 2018, relatively recently, is a dairy safety net program that is not size discriminatory. I believe that this program provides the best return for the government dollar in providing risk management for dairy producers. The program has been quite successful in its initial rollout. It is a crop insurance product where the premiums are set by an actuarially sound formula, and the government subsidizes the premium, with the producers paying the majority of the costs. The subsidy level for 90 and 95% coverage is 44% of the premium, which is paid by the Risk Management Agency. Those premiums have become larger in the last 2 years, and if additional funds could be found, increasing the premium subsidy by even 5 to 10% would likely increase dairy farmer participation in the DRP. If we just to get an idea on scale, if our goal was to get 70% of U.S. production covered in the DRP, it would cost about $154 million to increase the premium subsidy by 10 cents per pound of covered milk per hundredweight. And I've got a little bit of that math. I did hand in, I've got some notes attached to this, and there's a nice scale there, and the math on how we came up with that number.
Good, and we can submit that to the committee for the record and get that information all in.
All right, I'm just about out of time, but I want to talk about federal milk marketing orders. I did happen to watch the exchange that you had with Dana Cole at the hearing that you had in Washington.
Right.
We do need better data in our manufacturing costs. I think you talked to her about
Right.
that, and so we would support that. But it's important to remember that data, cost studies inform policy. They shouldn't dictate policy. USDA has long held in the federal order program is a tremendously successful program. It's been around 80 years. It's allowed the dairy industry all over the country to grow and to prosper and to take advantage of its comparative advantages. But we don't think that USDA, we think that their policy should be adopted through the hearing process.
Well, I agree, but the data is a helpful tool, and we need to update it because of the various factors that go into the federal milk marketing order as we try to make it balanced to the regional needs across the country.
We do. If I could, a very major significant event happened in the dairy industry in California in 2018 where we became part of the federal order
Right.
program. And just an update on that, Congressman Costa, you were key in making that possible for producers to do that. We believe that that added about $1 a hundredweight to California producer income, and the data for that is also in the notes that I put. And it's comparing the California all milk price to the federal or mailbox price to the U.S. mailbox price during the last 40 months of the state order compared to the 40 months we've had since the federal order was implemented in November of 2018. And when you look at those comparisons, we were $1.07 a hundredweight in the 40 months prior to the federal order, on average behind the national mailbox price. And since the federal order has happened in California, we're within 6 cents of that national average.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Jeff, but you know, it's really a result of a lot of discussion by the California dairy industry to come together, and Congressman Valadao and myself and others helped carry the legislation to allow California to participate in the federal milk marketing order. And I think it's worked out. You know, it can't be it's not the solution to all the problems, but I think it puts California on a more level playing field as it relates to how we fed our pricing out for milk across the country. Okay, winding up this panel here is a constituent of mine, and another second, third generation, Melvin? Second generation dairy farmer. You call yourself from Layton or Riverdale?
Oh, Layton. I'm on the right side of the highway.
Okay, thought. Anyway.
I got a rival sitting here next to me.
Please identify yourself for the record, and let's try to keep it to 3 minutes.
You bet. Melvin Medeiros, dairy farmer in Layton, California. And I also am the chairman for DFA's Western Council, and I sit on the National Milk Executive Board. So pleasure to be here, and Congressman Costa, we really appreciate everything you do for the Valley's ag. So actually, Jeff and I should have compared notes, because one of the topics I wanted to talk about was DMC also. You know, we recognize the improvements that's been made to DMC. We also understand that we need to go a step further. When you take a look at our industry and how the consolidation has happened in the industry, not just in California, but across the whole Western United States, the size and magnitude of dairies. We need to make some changes to this program and make it more relevant for all producers. You know, we feel that these programs are designed as safety nets and should be equitable for all size producers and not just be catering to one size or another. So it's something that we'd like to be addressed and looked at going forward.
Well, I think the point that both of you made as it relates to the DMC program is important, because it reflects the fact that you're sensitive to the 5 million pound cap because of the nature of dairy politics across the country.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes more sense, I think, to focus on the DMC as a means of addressing some of these challenges we're facing than trying to lift the $5 million pound cap, excuse me.
Well, yes, because, you know, we want to keep this industry united, border to border, coast to coast. We're losing too many as it is, and we don't want a program to create division amongst producers. So we feel it's important that we address it. Also, you know, we talk about what works, right? So, you know, we're looking at the market access programs and the foreign market development programs. Funding of those programs is crucial for our industry. It's crucial for exports and to keep developing our export markets. So we totally support those programs and hope funding can continue or increase in those programs. When it comes to nutrition, a big part of what we do, every one of us in agriculture. So we support the nutrition program. We support the dairy donation program, where it was able to bring dairy producers and food banks together to feed needy families. So we hope we can continue those programs going forward. And when it comes to sustainability, we take a look at sustainability and where we're at, especially California, and what we have achieved and where we need to be. You know, we've set some pretty high goals here in trying to achieve these goals, but we can't do it without incentives. We know that. Congressman, you were able to visit a a digester, pretty impressive digester the other day. And, even though digesters don't fit every operation, we need the incentives to continue those projects. We also need incentives for manure management systems. And the combination of those two not only bring us in compliance, but it also brings us with some energy sources for everybody. So we hope we can continue those programs. We hope we can increase those programs. And when we look at enteric emissions, we need a better track of getting those passed. It's cumbersome to get those products passed. Manufacturers don't want to go through that process because it's just like trying to get it through antibiotics or hormones. It goes through that same process where manufacturers are saying, hey, we're going to take it to another country and we're going to get it done there. And so it's kind of putting us behind the 8 ball here in that situation. So we need to look at a better process of getting those products into our system to where we can tackle the enteric emissions problem. And I think I'm out of time. So again, thank you for your time.
Okay,
and,
well, I want to
appreciate
thank
the
this
opportunity.
panel, and let me just mention a factor. As I referenced, I was at a conference in Brussels last week, and they asked me to speak on food security and climate change. And I referenced, and I see the president of California Farm Bureau here, Jamie, I thought I saw him back here somewhere. There you are. But in Ag Alert 2 weeks ago, they had a very good article about 119 digesters in California dairies. I think we got about 1,200 dairies, 119. You can do the math. That's close to, over 10% of the dairies. But being able to handle the manure and the methane in such a way that they estimate it reduces over 1.5 million cars taken off the road each year. So you think of what the contributions, and California agriculture, I think, is at the cutting edge in doing so many important efforts to improve our air quality, to deal with CO2 footprint and the other factors that we're facing. So, but we got to figure out ways that we can do better. That facility I went and looked at on Tuesday, they said that it took, 8 years to get the permitting completed? I mean, that's crazy. We got state-of-the-art turnkey technology, and to take 8 years to get the permitting complete so that we could improve the air quality we got to do better. So anyway, thank you all. Let me announce the next panel. The next panel here is conservation, and we have the following. Manuel Cunha from the Nisi Farmers League, come forward. We've got Tom McCarthy from Kern County Water Agency, General Manager. We've got Mark Instrom from Ducks Unlimited, Director of Public Policy. We've got Nicole Matter, Regenerate America. We've got from San Diego, you come a long ways. We've got Perry Taylor, volunteer with Renew America, and Julia Kane. Are all three of you going to you're speaking for the other two folks?
Yes, the three of us. We haven't collaborated together on our comments, but we are all representing.
And we're glad you're here.
Regenerate America.
And we're glad you're here. You've come a long way. So you drive this morning, or did you come in last night?
I'm a little bit of a wimp. I came in last night.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. I don't, are you Nicole?
I'm Nicola, yes.
I'm sorry?
Nicola.
Oh, Nicola.
Sorry, I have bad handwriting.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll have you first with Regenerate America. And then Mark, and I believe, and Tom, and we'll get through this. Manuel Cunha, who's their batting cleanup. Okay, please begin.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Dr. Nicola Peel-Moulter from San Diego, and thank you, Representative Costa, for this listening session and giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts today as not only a farm owner in Virginia, a consumer of food, and who isn't, a concerned citizen, and someone who's affected by the Farm Bill. I'm here also as a supporter of Regenerate America, which is a bipartisan coalition of farmers, businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. Together, we are amplifying the voices of farmers and ranchers to urge Congress to shift resources to make soil health and regenerative agriculture a key focus of the 2023 Farm Bill. Soil health is a vital solution for increasing farmer profitability, creating jobs, reviving rural America, securing our food supply chain, restoring biodiversity, cleaning our airs and waterways, and addressing climate change. The evidence is clear that our current conventional farming and ranching practices present a national security threat in terms of our ability to feed our nation and sustain our health. We are losing soil at the rate of almost 6 tons per acre per year. Soil compaction from tillage and the use of chemical inputs that destroy soil microbiome mean that even light rains can result in flooding, runoff, and erosion, followed by drought and desiccated fields. Many of our aquifers have less than 10 harvests left and produce salty water. These are significant and hidden costs to our food system we cannot afford. Furthermore, our current system is adding 4% to farm debt annually. How will we feed our nation, let alone the world, without soil, water, or pollinators? Fortunately, there's a cost-effective solution. Thousands of farmers and ranchers across the U.S. are proving that the principles and practices of soil health and regenerative agriculture work everywhere to restore ecosystem health, build soil, provide economic prosperity and security to farmers and ranchers, increase plant nutrient density and livestock health, increase overall resiliency against flooding and increasing storms and droughts. America's farmers and ranchers and the institutions that support them urgently need our support with soil health-focused regenerative policies that remove barriers and incentivize soil health and risk reduction through federal crop insurance and lending. Expand leading educational and technical service and implementation assistance for soil health systems. Ensure equitable opportunity and access to all USDA programs. Improve regional access to infrastructure, processing, and markets. Increase farmland preservation and access, including for historically underserved producers. And increase access to healthy and regionally sourced foods. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Doctor. And you are a professor at where?
My doctorate is in environmental engineering science at Caltech, and I work in the high-tech industry.
Oh, good. You talked about some of the importance of soil conservation. Is there any recommendations you have as it relates to the programs under the Title II that you would recommend that you could submit in testimony on areas where we could improve the ability to deal with challenges that you noted in your testimony about the loss of soils and their ability? I mean, clearly, we say where water flows, food grows, but if you don't have good soils, it can't
100%.
happen.
Yeah, we're happy to do that. And I'd also say it's beyond the conservation into the federal crop insurance to support farmers and ranchers who are transitioning.
Good, good. All right, I'm just trying to go in the order that you folks said. Tom McCarthy, I believe you're next, the Kern County Water Agency General Manager. Which general manager are you now at this point in time in the history of the Kern County Water Agency?
In the history, I think I'm approximately number 6, I believe,
Number 6.
following Curtis Creel.
Yeah, well, I worked very closely over the years with Tom Clark, and we miss him. But in the days where I used to represent the Kern County Water Agency, and we got a few things done.
Yeah, you both left quite a mark on water in California. So.
Yeah, well, please begin. Mr.
Thank
McCarthy.
you. Again, my name is Tom McCarthy. I'm here representing Kern County Water Agency. We're a state water contractor here in California. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Given limited time, I'll stick to 2 key areas, the voluntary agreements and SGMA. As you know, the voluntary agreements are an agreement between water agencies, the state of California, and federal government to bring regulatory certainty to water operations in California. Implementation of the voluntary agreements will require additional water available to the environment. Some of this may come from the market, but some of which could come from existing agricultural uses through fallowing irrigated land and reducing water supplies. Farm Bill funding could mitigate adverse economic effects to farmers and farm communities as additional water is provided to the environment. The voluntary agreements will also result in substantial restoration of fishery habitat, which will include a number of opportunities to partner with the USDA and their conservation mission. Implementation of the California Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA, will also require the retirement of thousands of irrigated farmland in California in order to bring water use in balance with supplies. Again, Farm Bill funding could help mitigate adverse economic effects to farmers in rural communities as SGMA is implemented over the coming years to bring water use and water supply in balance. Lastly, assuring both the VAs and SGMA are eligible for federal cost share funding through Farm Bill conservation programs, such as the Environmental Quality Incentives Program and the Conservation Reserve Program, would be extremely helpful in ensuring their success. We would also like to ask that Congress consider expansion of the conservation title to provide adequate funding and authority for USDA to partner with these efforts in California with state and local agencies. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, and please give the Kern County Water Agency and the board members my regards. We, as I said, had a good working relationship in years past. I think your points are well taken. I've been a big supporter of the efforts to comply with the voluntary agreements, because unless we get that worked out, I don't think there's a chance that we can ultimately get the operating agreement in place so that we can implement SGMA successfully. And it's a challenge, it's a real challenge over the next 10 years, even if we're able to get the VAs done, the operating agreement between the state and the feds, and also therefore to then try to comply with SGMA, and which I think is critical if we're going to keep agriculture in California. However, your point about making the conservation titles applicable in this instance is something that I really want to see what we can possibly do there, because there are, I think, are applications that can be done. And I was talking with another witness who's going to testify later this morning about using some of the programs that are under the the Department of Interior. And there's ought to be a way that we can use both funding levels, both in Interior and within USDA, to try to allow us to get our using all the water tools, as I like to say, in our water toolbox, to allow us to make this successful in the 21st century. That's the challenge. So good points. All right, the next witness that we have is Mark Instrom, and we're moving cards around here. Representing Ducks Unlimited, Director for Public Policy. And we're all, or most are familiar with Ducks Unlimited around the country, but principally here in the Valley, reflecting Grasslands Water District, which is the largest Pacific Flyway wildlife refuge in the Pacific Flyway between Canada and Mexico. And it plays a critical role between late October and late February, March for us to maintain our waterfowl. And with the efforts of conservation that are in mind, we appreciate that good work. And we'll look forward to hear testimony on the Farm Bill titles that you think will be most appropriate. And we'll try to keep it to 3 minutes, because my staff is giving me a bad time here, but I'm not, and they're saying I'm talking too much, which is usual. But go ahead, Mr. Instrom.
I will keep it to 3 minutes, I promise. Good afternoon, Chairman Costa, and thank you for holding this today. Again, for the record, my name is Mark Engstrom. I'm the Director of Public Policy here in California for Ducks Unlimited. Ducks Unlimited is the largest waterfowl conservation organization in the world, and to date, we have conserved over 15 million acres of wetland and habitat. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you here today. We're proud of our long history partnering with ranchers, farmers to deliver conservation, and we look forward to continuing our work with you to sustain our natural resources and our rural communities. The conservation programs included in the Farm Bill are a key part of the safety net used by farmers and ranchers to maximize on-farm efficiency and productivity and to maintain soil health, water retention, water quality, and wildlife habitat on their lands. Conservation is in high demand across the country, and we and our partners respectfully ask that you and your colleagues strengthen support for the most efficient and important conservation programs in the Farm Bill. We hope to see strong wetland and grasslands protections continued in the 2023 Farm Bill. We support strong funding for important working lands programs like Environmental Quality Incentive Program and the Conservation Stewardship Program. A robust regional conservation partnership program that benefits waterfowl habitat and soil health through voluntary, collaborative conservation efforts like the Ducks Unlimited Rice Stewardship Partnership, of which I do have their annual report that I'd like to hand out to you after.
We'll submit it for the record.
Thank you. A robust agricultural conservation easement program, and this is a nationally popular program where demand far exceeds funding availability. And an improved conservation reserve program through expanded grazing opportunities that improve wildlife habitat. And with that, I would like to, again, to thank you for holding this today and allowing us to give our remarks.
Well, we appreciate your testimony and concise and to the point and within the 3 minutes. God bless you. Also the fact that this conservation programs are so important in so many ways. If we're going to provide for the next generation of Americans the same sort of opportunities, and in a lot of areas we got to try to do better. And certainly your comments and your suggestions I will take into account. I'm not sure who is Julia and who's Perry. Okay, I'm just in the order, and then it's Perry?
Perry, yes.
Okay, you'll be after Julia, does it?
Thank you.
And Julia, you came from Concord?
No, I came from San Diego as well, Carlsbad.
Oh, okay, why does it say Concord here? Regenerative. Julia came?
I'm from Carlsbad.
No, Concord. Oh, no, Carlsbad. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure it said Carlsbad.
Okay, you come up this morning or last night?
No, actually, Nicola and I drove up this morning, last night, and then halfway to Bakersfield.
All right, well, welcome to
the rest of the
Fresno.
way. Thank you very much. Good morning, and first of all, I wanted to thank you also for hosting this important hearing. My name is Julia Kay, and I'm a CPA. I've already covered that I live in San Diego. I'm here as a supporter of Regenerate America. Nicola already alluded to this is a bipartisan coalition of farmers, businesses, nonprofits, and individuals raising our voices to ensure that the next Farm Bill shifts its resources and support towards regenerative agriculture. So I'm here to ask you guys to make soil health and regenerative agriculture a primary focus of the 2023 Farm Bill. My journey to becoming a soil advocate, because obviously in accounting in my world, I have not been around farmers or ranchers very much in my life. But it began several years ago when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And after my diagnosis, I began educating myself about nutrition. And that's when I discovered how many pesticides and other harmful chemicals are used in our food supply. Just one of those chemicals, glyphosate, used to kill weeds, began being used in the 1970s. By 1996, the U.S. was using about 15 million tons. And by 2016, the usage had increased to 280 million tons. Additionally, In 1960, the percentage of children with autoimmune diseases was 0. In 2016, it was 52%, which really surprised me when I found that out. That's a huge percentage. With further research, I began to understand that the industrial and monocultural practices lead to so much degradation of our topsoil and a huge reduction in the nutrient density of our food. Soil health is a vital solution for increasing nutrient density in and for securing the resilience of our food supply, restoring biodiversity, cleaning our air and waterways, and addressing climate change, as well as increasing farmer profitability, creating jobs, and reviving rural America. Excuse me. Regenerative agriculture can increase economic resilience, but also reduce erosion and the impacts from flood, drought, and pests without the use of harmful pesticides. Nicola already said all the asks that Regenerate America have, and we will provide that to you, but I did want to emphasize that in addition to the conservation role of the reviving the topsoil is also some of the federal nutrition programs, and I know that's a large component of the Farm Bill. By making the more regional and local markets and processing facilities and helping some of the smaller farmers in the local areas be able to make this transition, and many of them want to, but assisting them with programs will be very helpful for those programs as well. So I think there's a lot of crossover between the different
Right.
areas.
Well, and we're going to be hearing, I hope, from some of these smaller farmers here this morning, but it's awful difficult in terms of scale of economy for them to qualify, and sometimes there's language barriers and other types of cultural barriers, but we're going to try to make it more user-friendly in the next Farm Bill. The issue of maintaining soil composition and its ability to be sustainable is critical. I mean, if you're not a steward of being able to do that, then your ability to be sustainable. Let me ask you a question. I know regeneratives, and you may want to answer it as well, has become a term that is now being used more widely. I've used sustainability since I've been doing this stuff forever, going back to my years in Sacramento. For me, it means the same. If it's not sustainable, whether it's our ability to maintain the quality and the environmental ability to produce, you can't continue to be successful. Do you see a distinction in the terms?
Yes, there is a distinction, and I think it's a very important one because our soils are so degraded at this point that we really need to rebuild them and replenish the amounts we've lost so much of it.
Well,
absolutely.
Different examples of where you think the soil composition has eroded to levels of the point that you made. And we'll go from there, okay?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
And, well, thank you for your time. And Perry Taylor? Taylor, okay. The T didn't...
Taylor with a C.
Okay, good. And from Menlo Park, did I get that straight?
That's correct.
Okay, I got my nephew lives in Menlo Park, so you drove over this morning?
I came to the Hilton last night.
Okay.
I'm a little bit of a late riser, probably compared to most of the farmers in this room anyway.
Well, welcome to Fresno and Fresno State.
Thank you. My name is Perry Taylor. As a suburban California resident from Menlo Park, that's Congressional District 18, a member of American Farmland Trust, and an advocate for the Regenerate America campaign for soil health, I really appreciate this opportunity to share my thoughts as you prepare for the 2023 Farm Bill. I'm here today because I care about Americans having abundant, nutritious food and clean, fresh water, As you know, the future of these resources is imperiled. Farmland and the profession of farming are also at risk, threatened by failing soils, overdevelopment, and changing weather patterns due to climate change, among other factors. As our state and the Southwest cope with a 1,200-year drought, I actually worry about whether the Central Valley will continue to be a producer of a quarter of the nation's food and 40% of its fruits, vegetables, and nuts. To support the farmers who are feeding our nation and the world, we really need to reverse these ongoing threats. And we can do so if we rebuild soil health by making that a priority in the 2023 Farm Bill. On behalf of the Regenerate America campaign and its bipartisan coalition of farmers and ranchers, organizations, and ordinary people, I ask that you within the Farm Bill allocate resources to 6 specific policy solutions that can help farmers produce healthier soils and build a brighter future for American farming and farm prosperity. I'll reiterate these 6 priorities briefly. 1, expand access to education, technical service, and implementation assistance for soil health systems. 2, boost USDA program outreach to underserved and small farmers so that they can attain success through program use. 3, improve regional access to infrastructure, processing, and markets to build secure regional food webs and enable small processors and distributors to participate. 4, change federal nutrition program purchasing requirements so that people have access to healthy and regionally or locally produced food. 5, increase farmland access for historically underserved farmers and especially the young farmers. Use conservation easements that can preserve working farmland and emphasize regenerative agriculture in succession planning. 6, remove barriers in federal crop insurance and lending programs that restrict soil healthy practices. Add incentives that support soil health and risk reduction. So as you navigate the labyrinth of really difficult decision-making you have ahead of you, I hope you'll be able to consider ways that the Farm Bill can rebuild the nation's soil. And this could be any number of ways. A land of vital, resilient soils will lead to positive outcomes for all Americans. We all envision a better future for ourselves and our families, for our communities, and those who will inherit the earth. Thank you so much, Representative Costa, for your time.
Thank you very much. The 18th District, is that Jackie
Eshoo.
Spear? Eshoo. Anna?
Anna Eshoo.
Oh, Anna's, well, both Anna and Jackie are good friends, but Anna's originally has some of her Armenian family from Fresno, so she and I talked fondly about her memories of Fresno when her parents used to live here many years ago. Do you take distinct, I think the 6 areas that you referenced are important, and we'll look at that as good suggestions. I asked the question to the previous witness about the issue of, in your mind, distinctions between sustainability and regenerative. Do you have any comment on that?
Absolutely. As you mentioned previously, sustaining means continuing on the same path. So you can envision it as a straight line parallel to the
Well,
ground.
I don't look at it that way.
Okay,
You know
I'm sorry.
why? Because I don't farm the way my father farmed, and my father didn't farm the way his father farmed. Change is constant. I said that at the beginning. So to make an assumption that sustainability means that we're doing things the way we did them 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, I think is incorrect.
I think that we might be dealing a little bit with semantics here, and I apologize for misinterpreting what you said. So the way I'm interpreting what you're saying now is that as you make these changes, and the changes are constant, your family over generations has improved the soil or improved your practices.
Well, we like to think so.
So that in itself would be regenerative.
Yeah.
and whatever practices.
I think it's important that we have this conversation, and I'm not trying to be accusatory. I just want to get some clarity,
I
frankly.
understood completely.
And I think that that's important as we discuss the Farm Bill next year.
And full disclosure, I'm also a soil advocate with an English degree and no background in farming, so I come to this humbled by the presence of so many people here who are educating me with every word they
Well, we
say.
all get educated. I get educated every day. I'm the co-chairman of the Soils Caucus, and I don't have an English degree, but I'm trying.
I think you probably know more about soil than I have learned in the last year and a half of my study. But to get back to the question that you asked, if you would give me another second or two.
A second or two, we got, my
Okay.
staff is telling me to, let's keep it going. Go ahead, quickly.
I sense that your family over time has improved the land. That is what regeneration is.
Yeah,
It is
thank you.
improving the land and soil.
Well, no, I think we've all got to improve. I mean, we have less than 4% of the state's population, and the same can be said nationwide, that is actively engaged in putting food on America's dinner table every night. I mean, it's kind of, our success is part of our challenge, I think. And when you look at, we're trying to feed people this year in parts of the world, and Vilsack and I've had this conversation, where we're seeing potential famine and food shortages, and it's costing us more to send the food there than the value of the food. I mean, something's wrong with that. When you have people that are at a status where their famine could set in, and it's costing us more to get them food than the actual value of the food itself. So we waste a lot of food here in America. That I'm not going to get on my soapbox here, but we can do a lot better job. We waste so much food, whether it's in different ways, but we need to look at that as well.
Well, thank you, Representative Costa, for this conversation and for the opportunity to speak.
You're passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. How about that?
Right on.
Okay. Last on this panel, he is a person that really in this area here needs no introduction. He's been a strong advocate, I think, his entire life on behalf of California agriculture, the president of the Nisi Farmer League, Manuel Cunha. Manuel?
Thank you very much, Congressman. Appreciate the opportunity. First, I have a few accolades of thank you that need to be said, because we do forget sometimes to say thank you to our congressional folks. I want to again thank you, Congressman Panetta, for your efforts on the farm crop insurance in the appropriations, helping our agents. Our agents are the key to help many of our farmers to complete the applications, the forms, the information they need for the RMA, et cetera. So again, thank you very, very much for that opportunity, and it sits over in the Senate as we proceed forward, so thank you. Number two, it has a tremendous amount to do with everything that's going to be talked about today, and I have to say it because I will say it, is immigration reform must be a part of this entire Farm Bill discussion by all states to take care of those hardworking farm workers that have been here for 30, 40 years and still haven't got temporary access, but yet we worry more about H-2A than we do about the people that have made things happen for 30 years. As well as the second part of the immigration is DACA, those kids that have been here since 2012 in that process. We need to get those people made whole. Number three is on this is a very different committee for me to be on. Usually it's controversial in the sense of labor and immigration, but I will say that the farmers of this country and this state, especially California, have the most toughest regulations than any other state. Our small farm size has gone from a 60-acre, 80-acre grower to a 200 to a 500-acre grower in the San Joaquin Valley, and that is all due to regulatory requirements coming out of Sacramento. The destruction of the 60-hour work week to a 40-hour work week, comparing farm workers like bank tellers and like school teachers. School teachers work hard, don't get me wrong. I was a teacher and a professor, so I do understand that. But we do have to have the tools in our toolbox, and that includes pesticides. Pesticides are not all bad. Our farmers are very responsible in how they use them. Without them, we couldn't feed the world at all because the insects would take over our forest and everything. If we want to talk about soil resiliency and all of that, then we better take care of the burning of our forests without forest management. The 450,000 acres that's up here at Shavert that the congressman has toured, and many others, is a devastation of poor environmental people wanting, and we have to deal with that. So I think we need to start take care of those areas. The last thing I will want to make sure in the equipped funding is that we have $37 million in there for air quality, that we increase that to deal with the no agricultural burning will take place in 2024 in this valley. They're only state and the only counties, 8 counties, that no longer will be able to burn at all. So we have to grind and chip. And when you have wire and metal that grows into these plants, very difficult to deal with. So the farmers do need the help. So we hope we can increase the $37 million in the Farm Bill to $50 million, which will help deal with agricultural burning. And again, thank you for everything you've done, Congressman, your staff, and everybody, but also many of the other congressional leaders. And again, I want to thank you on behalf of our agents. You've done one heck of a job in making that happen, and it was way overdue, and our agents will now be made whole, and we get it through the Senate and get it to the President. I think that will be great. And the second is to get immigration done, and I know
Well,
that this is not the place, but thank you.
I wish the Ag Committee was in charge of immigration reform, but unfortunately we're not. But thank you for your passion always, Mr. Cunha, on all of the above. We're still trying, I support comprehensive immigration reform, and for DACA and for our Dreamers, and these are some of the hardest working people you ever meet in your lives. And the fact is that it's irresponsible that we don't have comprehensive immigration reform. The closest we came was 2013, when John McCain and a bipartisan group of folks, we thought we were going to get it, but we couldn't bring it up for a vote in the House. Otherwise, a lot of these issues would have been addressed. The Air Resources Board here in the Valley that I was involved with many years ago when I was in Sacramento has programs that use both state and federal funding. And I know for removal of orchards or vineyards, they provide support so that you don't have to burn to deal with the issues of the burning qualities. Is it your understanding that the ability to provide that support to, and obviously the law is going to change as you noted in your testimony, but does that solely rely on state funding, or do they participate in state and federal funding?
Right now, we don't have, it's pure state funding through the $180 million we got for the ag burn.
We might want to look at that. I could have participated, but
we asked for another
it was legally
$180.
when I replaced my orchard 3 years ago, one of my orchards, and I chose not to because I didn't want to read in the newspaper that Costa was participating. So I paid for the grinding up of the chips on my own. So.
Sigma will give you that opportunity because we see more orchards going out because of the taking. So if we can get funding to help these farmers from the state.
It's legal for me to participate in all these programs. I choose not to because I don't want people to think that, I'm supporting these programs and now
But you're a farmer. And,
I am.
And so your land is just as important as anybody's.
All right, thank you all. Let me give you an order so people can know that the next panel is trade. And thank you all for your time. Thank you for those who came a long distance. Thank you for making the effort. And the next one is nutrition. So you get an idea, and it's 11:30, and I think we're going to make it here before our 1 o'clock deadline. So we will begin with trade, and then we will follow up with nutrition. For the trade panel, I have here before me Mr. Richard Matoyan. I have Joey Fernandez. I have Ernie Schroeder. And I think the three of those are the, and then I thought I saw Joey Fernandez. Okay, here comes Mr. Schroeder. And here comes Mr. Fernandez. And then the next panel will be nutrition. So, Mr. Matoyan, you, like myself, have been around for a while.
Yes.
So,
Good morning, Congressman Costa. Thank you so much for putting this hearing together. I am here on behalf of American Pistachio Growers. My name is Richard Matoyan. I am president of American Pistachio Growers. We are a trade association that represents pistachio growers in representing their interests in both the state and also the federal level. Since 1976, the U.S. pistachio industry has moved from producing 1 million pounds of pistachios to a high of 1 billion pounds in 2021. A recent Rabobank analysis of the U.S. pistachio industry reports that pistachio farm gate value has grown sixfold over the last 15 years. At the end of this decade, we expect to harvest a 2 billion pound crop. Our current production is in the states of California, Arizona, and New Mexico, and I also understand our friends in Texas are dabbling in pistachios as well. Clearly, the number one problem for pistachio growers at this time is the drought and the reduction or elimination of access to state and federal water. We urge your committee to expand or adopt existing or new programs that will increase water supplies for our growers. The Market Access Program, or MAP program as it's called, has proven to be very successful in helping our industry promote overseas. MAP dollars plus dollars that we put in as an organization assist in promoting and marketing American-grown pistachios throughout many of our export markets. Our largest export markets are China and the European Union. We recommend that the funding be increased to $400 million since the current level has been at $200 million for decades, and we believe this program has been of great benefit to opening export markets. The Specialty Crop Research Initiative program is also paramount for the pistachio industry. Increasingly, specialty crops are experiencing pest and disease problems because of international trade and climate change. We recommend an increase in program research funding. We also encourage the committee to include the SCRI program matching funds waiver in the 2023 Farm Bill. This waiver is needed for those in the specialty crop industry of whom a matching fund requirement is not attainable. In conclusion, we strongly encourage the continuation of these programs through the 2023 Farm Bill. Thank you for your time coming here and for listening to my comments.
well, thank you very much, Mr. Matoyan, for your good work and for your thoughtful comments regarding the 2023 Farm Bill, and we'll continue the conversation. Our next witness is Ernie Schroeder, representing Jess Smith Cotton?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, please begin.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Ernie Schroeder. I'm the CEO of Jess Smith & Sons. We're a Bakersfield-based merchandising company for over 80 years. I'm pleased to offer comments today on behalf of the American Cotton Shippers Association, where I currently serve as vice chairman. So I have three short points I'd like to address today. First, on the supply chain disruption. U.S. cotton is 90% exported and has been impacted by supply chain disruptions and poor service, creating tremendous risk for cotton merchandisers and making U.S. cotton competitive. We definitely applaud you, Chairman Costa, for the passage of the Ocean Shipping Reform Act. We hope there's swift implementation from the FMC and are very grateful for the introduction of its companion, the American Port Access Privilege Act, which you authored with Congressman Garamendi. So thank you very much for your support
We've been working closely together and with a host of our other colleagues on a bipartisan fashion on this, and the support of California agriculture has been very critical in this effort, along with a lot of other folks.
Correct. Yeah, that's very important. We appreciate all the help you've been there. Second point, Pima cotton. Pima, or ELS, extra long staple, as you may see it written. This makes up about 80% of the cotton grown in California is Pima. It's a specialty crop. It's a very niche crop. No one else in the world can grow it like the farmers in San Joaquin Valley can. The issue with it is it does not have any price support. So if you look at upland cotton, when prices drop, they have a marketing loan gain, a loan deficiency payment, producer option payment. Pima does not. Pima has zero, and that's a tremendous problem. So when prices drop, that is something that we need to protect this. And in my opinion, that is the only way to protect the longevity of Pima grown out here. So when the new Farm Bill comes up, we're going to be working aggressively with yourselves, National Cotton Council, and establishing a price support system for Pima, of getting a loan deficiency payment or a producer option payment. That way it makes it very unison and similar with upland cotton. So that is something very, very important. So when you hear Pima, think price support in the new Farm Bill, please. Last point, getting some statutory support for the cotton merchandisers. Our members suffered catastrophic loss during the trade war and COVID-19. You yourself helped us out a lot with leading a letter to the Ag Secretary of trying to get us some aid on our inventory and carrying costs, so we greatly appreciate that. We do request and hope to develop some policy going forward, providing a safety net for our industry's risk managers who provide the liquidity and the support for the U.S. cotton industry. So it's been a pleasure to be here on behalf of the American Cotton Shippers Association, and we definitely support all the priorities established by the American Cotton Producers Group. I have some of my industry colleagues here, Mark McKean, Kurt Gilkey, that are going to be commenting later. And again, I thank you for allowing me to visit and share my comments. I look forward to working with you in the new Farm Bill. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your comments, and you may have missed them. Both Mark and Kurt testified earlier.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't hurt to reference that. I think the importance of dealing with the challenges we face are clearly pointed out in your testimony, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Last on this panel, but certainly not least, Mr. Joey Fernandez from Tulare.
Tulare, yeah, thank you, Congressman. Again, Joey Fernandez, along with my wife and 3 sons, dairy farm in Tulare, milking both Holsteins and Jerseys. And
which generation?
I'm 3rd. Okay. I call it 2.5. My grandfather went in and out of the business.
Wow.
So. But we're talking trade. I want to just reiterate, though, what my fellow dairy members had spoke to up here. Again, applaud what we've done with risk management, but the improvements that we can make to DMC, I think, are just so critical. As it was mentioned earlier, the consolidation that's happening, and particularly for the dairy farmer in California. That safety net is fairly weak when you look at the size of our operations. But to that, and I had a lot here to talk about, and understanding the time limit and looking at specifically to trade. I think that involved in trade is supply chain, that issues that we can't ignore that have been plaguing this dairy industry, especially in California. We've encountered challenges shipping our finished products to foreign markets. We rely on grain movement from the Midwest to feed our milking herds, and receive timely and accountable services from major railway has been really a challenge. We've also encountered significant challenges with finding truckers to transport these goods. The supply chain challenges have cost us billions of dollars over the past years, and higher just direct costs, reduced value, and additional labor costs and lost sales. I mean, with that, though, on the international scene, we applaud the leadership of both Congress and the White House on the recently passed Ocean Shipping Reform Act. On behalf of California producers and Land O'Lakes, we encourage swift implementation of the Ocean Shipping Reform Act to ensure agricultural producers have access to foreign markets, and we are able to address the global food security crisis. We also applaud the continued focus on public-private collaboration to make sure we create robust and innovative solutions that impact the entire supply chain ecosystem. We're pleased to be engaged in the U.S. Department of Transportation's FLOW initiative, which is a public-private engagement that's a great example of how the government and industry can collaborate. And lastly, this lagging rail performance and disruptive rail service continues to impact agricultural operations throughout the state due to the sheer and big volumes of feed, fertilizer, and crop inputs that are required to sustain our state's agricultural productivity. And just ask policymakers to continue monitoring and addressing the various issues driving these performance challenges. And that so much of trade involves food security, which is national security. Agriculture is a global business, and trade disruptions, along with inflationary pressures, directly impact our domestic production and profitability. Domestically, I would urge this committee to focus and develop strengthening risk management mechanisms that enable producers to withstand the volatility of commodity markets within the economic environment. Globally, we should all be concerned with the current trade environment and its implication for food security, especially in developing and the least developed nations. At this critical moment, U.S. global leadership is needed to encourage and maintain trade policies that foster multilateral trade negotiations and collaborations. And again, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I'm here speaking not only as a dairy farmer, but a representative of Land O'Lakes, as a board member and a board member of National Milk. And thanks for this time. And in closing, I would just like to thank you again, Congressman Costa, for this opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Fernandez, and I want to thank all three panel members for your testimony. And obviously, we need to work on the above. On the supply chain issues, has already been spoken. We've got it both. For our exports, we got the problem with the empty containers, and I think we're getting better. You were at that meeting on Tuesday, and that list of recommendations, Jenny Moffett and I are going to be following through on that were made in terms of the pop-up efforts to figure out a way to fix this and make that concept work. But we've got the other problem, as you noted, in terms of the 4 to 7 train loads a week that come into California to supply our dairies and our poultry operations. So we're working on both ends of it, but we thank you for your testimony, and we'll begin with the next panel, which is nutrition. I'm trying to do better on this and moving things along. Allison Hildebrand, please come forward. Natalie Caples. Azul Gutierrez, Jim Grant, let's see here, and Gregory Mahoney. I think that is the list that I've got here on the nutrition panel. I hope I did not leave anyone out. So just sit behind there, and then we can go back and forth, however that works. I'm going to guess that your name, they don't have it, Gregory Mahoney?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just trying to go down the order here. Okay, well, why don't we start with you, Gregory? And I know Jim Grant is over there. Your name is? Hi, Natalie. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here. And are you Azul Gutierrez?
Yes.
Good. I'm getting this figured out here. And Allison, okay, you're there. And I know Jim is behind Azul, and we'll make it work. Okay, Mr. Mahoney, please go begin with your testimony.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Congressman Costa. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this important topic before us today. My name is Gregory Mahoney, and I'm representing the California Welfare Fraud Investigators Association, or better known by our acronym of CWFIA. I am an executive board member and the National Outreach Chairman. Our organization has been in existence for over 50 years and has been ensuring that program integrity within the California's welfare system stays intact. Our members are the law enforcement and eligibility workers who meet with the recipients daily and see the end results of the policies created by Congress regarding the SNAP program. Our members are the subject matter experts in regards to the actual fraud being committed and policy effectiveness. I myself work full-time as a supervising fraud investigator with over 30 years of law enforcement experience. CWFIA is also a stakeholder with the California Department of Social Services and the USDA's Food and Nutrition Services. The topics which our organization would like to see addressed within the next Farm Bill are focused on strengthening the SNAP program, wherein fraud can be measured and effectively combated. Additionally, we'd like to emphasize that some of the current policies are having a negative effect on the recipients. Currently, fraud within the SNAP program is not measured by any study nor accurate parameters which can show the flaws which our membership sees. CWFIA requests that the new Farm Bill fund a definitive study on the actual amount of fraud versus the error rate. The data which calculates the error rate does not capture the actual fraud rate. Our organization believes that the actual fraud rate is actually 20% or higher. We also request that the temporary waivers which were implemented during the pandemic do not become permanent. These waivers are causing opportunities for desperate people to make false claims to obtain more aid than they're eligible for. Those false claims cause criminal charges. CWFI further requests that the new Farm Bill does not extend the reporting time periods for recipients to claim changes to their situations beyond the current 6-month time period. Expanded reporting time periods result in higher money loss levels, which lead to criminal charges. Both of those last 2 points are important because we are watching the current policies make the SNAP program become a gateway for the recipient's first criminal conviction. With this current flaw, SNAP is failing to keep the tenet of assisting people to rise out of their poverty situations. Finally, CWFIA feels it's imperative that either dedicated funding to fraud investigative units or required ratio of investigators to recipients is necessary in the next Farm Bill. Currently, the investigative units are undermanned and do not have resources necessary to complete their duties. I wish to thank you and your staff for your time and dedication to this topic in the upcoming Farm Bill. As always, CWFIA is ready and available to assist your legislative offices in any way they needed, and we are free, so it's an accommodation that is rarely seen today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mahoney, for your testimony. And you're based in
San Bernardino.
San Bernardino, okay. Well, we'd like to, if you have some additional information. So when you say 20%, you're talking about statewide?
That is correct.
Okay. And submit that for the committee, and so that we can get a better sense, and we will follow up with you.
We had done a private study of our own years past. It actually came up into the 30% range. I state 20% for error. A new study is probably due, but if we can pull one off before you start meeting in session, we will do so.
Well, that'll be next year, so.
Right.
We'll talk some more. Natalie, is it Caples?
Yes.
Co-CEO for the Central California Food Bank, is that correct?
That's correct.
Let me thank you and all of those associated with the food bank that I'm familiar with here, that I've worked both in Fresno. I used to know the number off the top of my head, but as much as I think 40% of the people that are using the food bank that had never been to a food bank in their lives.
Yeah, during the height of the pandemic, we saw about 35% of the individuals we were serving were new users.
And the good work, I mean, nothing was perfect, of course, in the food box program and some of the other efforts, but
Yep.
I've been involved and supportive of the food bank program here for a long time, and I want to thank you for your good work. Please open on your testimony.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Natalie Caples, and I'm the co-CEO of Central California Food Bank located here in Fresno, California. In Central California, 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 3 children are food insecure. We are the largest hunger relief organization in our region, serving Fresno, Madera, Kings, Tulare, and Kern counties, and we work with over 300 feeding sites, including community organizations, faith-based partners, schools, and healthcare, serving 350,000 neighbors each month, a 25% increase from pre-pandemic levels. During the pandemic, there was unprecedented federal support to swiftly meet the need of neighbors who require emergency food support, some for the first time ever. That response included investments in vital nutrition programs like TFAP and SNAP. Because of that federal support and the expansion of food bank feeding programs, we were able to distribute over 52 million pounds of food, and neighbors were able to access the support they needed to get back on their feet. In recent months, however, rising prices for food, gas, and many basic needs combined with the winding down of federal support has increased pressure on families, leaving many seeking emergency food assistance once more. At the food bank, we're working diligently to meet the sustained need, but we're doing so with a 42% cut in food available through the Emergency Food Assistance Program, TFAP, from just last year. Pricing, transportation challenges, and manufacturing delays, resulting in roughly half of our monthly loads being canceled, have contributed to the decreased food availability through this program. And although we've increased our own food purchasing budget to continue to meet the demand, we simply can't make up the difference on our own, and increased purchases over a long period of time will not be sustainable for our food bank and many sister food banks across the state of California. As current economic conditions continue to make access to affordable food more difficult for our neighbors, we need your help to meet the need of food assistance over the long term, and specifically, we need more TFAP. TFAP has provided critical support to food banks, and we would not have been able to meet the need without the large investments made. Converting back to pre-pandemic levels in the Farm Bill will leave food banks ill-prepared to meet the demands in our communities. Considering the current economic conditions, I'd ask that the Farm Bill should include additional mandatory funding for TFAP food, and TFAP mandatory funds should be authorized at least $450 million per year in the next Farm Bill. TFAP storage and distribution fund should increase to reflect the actual distribution needs to $200 million per year, and TFAP infrastructure grants should remain at $15 million per year. Additionally, TFAP bonus commodity purchases provide support for agricultural markets when support is needed and provides the nation's food banks with access to additional healthy food. Congress should ensure that USDA retains the authority to purchase bonus commodities in times of high need for emergency food relief, in addition to times of low commodity prices, so that the program is responsive to excess supply and excess demand. And additionally, and I know I need to wrap up, I urge you to permanently strengthen SNAP by basing benefit allotments on the low-cost food plan instead of the thrifty food plan, removing the cap on the shelter deduction. Thank you for your leadership. I know that you are a big supporter of TFAP and SNAP, and we hope to work with you in the future on these improvements.
Thank you, and we appreciate your advocacy and the good work that you do for those most in need, and we'll continue to work together. Your points are well taken. Itzul Gutierrez, you are next.
Thank you. Yes, hi, my name is Itzul Gutierrez, Senior Policy Advocate at California Association of Food Banks. We represent our 41 member food banks across California. Thank you so much for holding this session today and giving us the opportunity to speak. I also want to say thank you for your leadership on SNAP. SNAP is our most effective anti-hunger tool, bringing $11 billion in federal food benefits, $20 billion in total economic activity, and 272,000 jobs statewide. There's also Disaster SNAP, known as DSNAP, which helps in times of disaster, such as floods or fires, which are unfortunately becoming a yearly occurrence. One of the most important features overlooked is that DSNAP is only available under certain circumstances and has not included drought. And when that happens, it causes extreme economic hardship in the valley. But it doesn't destroy infrastructure like fires or hurricanes. The Farm Bill needs to recognize drought for the impact it has for food and farm economy that is the lifeblood of this region. I heard food banks talking about how SNAP is only $5.50 a day, even after the thrifty food plan increase, and you can't buy much food with that. And that's especially true for this in this district, a rural area where families and seniors need to drive far to the store and are paying extra. We need to think about this, as you mentioned, 24% of people in the district who are on SNAP. We need to have a real conversation in the Farm Bill on what an adequate benefit looks like in the region like this and improve equitable access to the benefits. Why do we have special rules blocking access to our neighbors in need? College students and immigrants are contributing to the valley economy. restrictions on college students here at Fresno State, and immigrants who are powering the economy in the Valley, the breadbasket that puts food on the table for America. All this can be fixed. SNAP benefits need to be made adequate, not cut or restricted. And we need to talk about this in the Farm Bill, as it is an opportunity to make a strong Farm Bill that will fight hunger. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Gutierrez, for your passion and your advocacy on behalf of people who need food. Appreciate it. You came from Oakland?
I actually live in Santa Rosa. Our offices are based in Oakland, so I came from up there.
Well, thank you. Another advocate and a person who I've had the pleasure to work with over the years, Jim Grant with Catholic Relief Services, who is always focused and appreciate your efforts. Mr. Grant, please begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jim Grant. Today I'm speaking on behalf of Catholic Relief Services, a ministry to the world which serves in 100 countries, 130 million people. As we speak, 13,000 people will die today of starvation, and 9.9% of our world's population, 811 million people, will be alive but undernourished. Thank you for this chance to speak on behalf of the world. We continue to see that because of the conflict in Ukraine, along with the lingering impacts of COVID-19 and all the other crises like the Horn of Africa drought, mean that millions of people today are not only going to go to bed hungry, but they will now be at risk of dying because of lack access to food. During this time of an unprecedented and dire food insecurity in the whole world, it's critically important to reauthorize and expand the flexibility and efficiency of life-saving international programs authorized in the 2023 Farm Bill, given that the work that it does towards ending hunger for the people most marginalized and vulnerable is very successful. Let me focus on 4 hunger issues that this addresses. First, to continue to champion support to reauthorize 4 existing international programs in the bill. They include Title II Food for Peace, which includes the ability to use the Community Development Fund for non-emergency Title II programs. Secondly, the McGovern-Dole Food for Education. This program provides school lunches for children who would get no other food that day. Thirdly, Food for Progress. This program helps to strengthen value chains for vanilla, chocolate, and coffee in other countries. Finally, Farmer to Farmer. This program leverages the agricultural knowledge here in the U.S. by connecting expert volunteers to U.S.-funded programs around the world. The second way to address hunger globally is to expand the flexibility and the efficiency of international programs in the 2023 Farm Bill, specifically the Food for Peace Title II and the McGovern-Dole Food for Education program. Catholic Relief Services, USAID, and USDA and others have offered their suggestions at the April hearings which you conducted, and I hope that you will continue to work with these agencies to find smart solutions at this dire time in our world when funding will be an issue, but the needs are only greater than ever. Thank you very much, Congressman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grant, for your concise and focused testimony, and we appreciate your passion always. The next, I hope I have this correct, Allison Hildebrand.
Actually, I think my card was lost. Alicia Nelson.
Okay, Alicia Nelson. And you're representing who?
I'm representing Fresno State College students. I am the Director of Wellness Services in our Food Security Project.
Okay, is that part of the CalFresh program here at Fresno State?
Yes, the Food Security Project is, or CalFresh is one of the initiatives under our
Okay, and Allison is the coordinator?
That is correct.
Okay.
She'll speak right after me.
Oh, okay, there we go. All right. Please.
Thank you. Again, my name is Alicia Nelson. I am the Director of Wellness Services in our Food Security Project here at Fresno State. College students across the country are struggling to afford food and other basic needs. A study in 2018 showed that the food insecurity rate here on our Fresno State campus was 43.7%, and we assume that that has increased based off of the pandemic. Students are often forced to choose between necessary school supplies and basic needs like food. At Fresno State, 57% of our undergraduate students are Pell eligible, and 77% of undergraduate students receive some form of financial aid. That percent increases to 85% when we look at our full-time first-year students. Basic needs support for students have increased on our campus each year. And this past year, we've served 20,261 visits to our on-campus food pantry. We've also supported in the last 3 years over 2,000 students to apply for CalFresh or SNAP benefits. And we've also seen our emergency grants have supported over 1,000 students just this year. Because we see a significant utilization of our basic needs programs, we know that there is a need for CalFresh or SNAP on our campus, and streamlining the eligibility requirements is necessary. During the pandemic, one of the best things for our students here was changing the EFC and work study criteria, which nearly doubled the amount of Fresno State students who were eligible for CalFresh. Food insecurity impacts students' mental and physical health and their academic performance, making it challenging for some students to complete their degree. Therefore, I urge you to consider updating the eligibility requirements to consider attending an institution of higher education a form of qualification, just as work. And also consider passing the HR 1919 EATS Act, which would address the inequalities college students have on the SNAP rolls and to expand eligibility for SNAP for college students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony and keep up the good work here at Fresno State. Now I think we have Allison Hildebrand. Is that correct?
Right, now it's my turn.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll try to keep it short, but my name is Allison Hildebrand. I am the CalFresh coordinator here at Fresno State, and I'll be speaking on Fresno State students specifically, but advocating for higher education students as a whole. As my colleague mentioned, we have high rates of food insecurity on our college campuses, and Fresno State is no different. And we can assume, based on the students who are utilizing our basic needs services, that we do have a lot of students who are eligible for CalFresh or SNAP benefits. But I want to speak on another group that I interact with on a daily basis, and that is the group of students who are not eligible. As I speak with them, doing outreach assistance, helping them with their applications, we'll go through the criteria, which is complex and it is inequitable. A lot of these students cannot work the work role requirement, which is 20 hours a week, and a lot of them do not meet the rest of the student requirements when it comes to the student criteria. As of now, besides this work rule, there are other student exemptions that can make a student eligible. Specifically, I want to focus on two of them. As mentioned, that work rule and the added exempted programs. When it comes to working, a lot of students cannot work, and that can be due for a variety of reasons that we cannot assume. It could be personal due to kids, it could be financial reasons, and it could be due to the academic workload. When it comes to the added exempted programs, we appreciate all the efforts done to make sure that we can expand the amount of students who are eligible by adding specific programs or majors that will increase the amount of students who can apply for CalFresh and get those benefits. However, when we are considering which programs get added as an exempted program, it's a complex system of needing to meet specific employment and training requirements. And essentially, the ultimate goal of adding these programs is to say that in this specific major, these students are becoming more employable. But I want to make two arguments in reference to what I've just said. When it comes to the work limit, school is work, and a lot of these students are not only working hard in the classroom, but they go home and have to work as well. And again, we can't make an assumption as to why they aren't able to fulfill this 20-hour work requirement. And then when it comes to these added exempted programs and picking and choosing which ones make a student more employable, I would like to say that it is all of the students who are attending college. They've made a decision to go through their programs. They are all gaining skills, both academic and personal, that will make them more employable when they graduate. Because of this, we know students, again, have a high rate of food insecurity, and we want them to be happy and healthy in their journey. So I highly urge you to consider moving forwards that when looking at student eligibility, so long as they meet the basic criteria, that we make it to where if a student is in higher education, that is enough to be considered eligible when it comes to the student exemption eligibility rules.
Well, thank you, Alice. Thank you, Allison, and I appreciate your point of reference. If you could provide to the committee at some later date the snapshot on the CalFresh program as it relates to the 23 state university campuses in California, because I think it would be important to get a sense of how many of the 23 campuses, and I suspect a lot of it's similar, but the total percentages numbers. Okay?
All right, thank you. I'll try to see if I can get that data, since a lot of it is actually dissimilar from campus to campus. And
Yeah,
it's not
no,
completely
well,
equal.
I'm sure you're very good at this.
All right, well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
All right, thank you. We'll have our next panel on Title VI, Rural Development. And we have Eric Payne, we have Jesse Cantor, I believe, Lillian Theo Chai, I think. I hope I got that right, Lillian. And Dr. Ruth Dahlquist Willard. Are those, well, if they're outside, that's a problem, because I can't hear them. Please ask them to come in. A little patience, Eric. And let me note, I mentioned earlier that Secretary Karen Ross and I had spoke yesterday. She was going to be out of state this week, and even though Don Cameron had intended to be here, I got a note. He probably doesn't want to say this, but he broke his foot and will not be here, but he'll submit his testimony on behalf of Secretary Karen Ross, and he will, I'm sure, have testimony for the committee as to the snapshot that the Department of Food and Ag is, and they're so involved in so much of what we're discussing here today. Okay, we've got Eric. We've got, are you Lillian?
Yes.
Wonderful, Lillian. And are you Dr. Ruth Dahlquist? Okay. And am I leaving someone out here? Oh, Jesse. Hi. Is it Cantor?
Yes.
Okay. Eric Payne, please begin.
Good evening, Congressman Costa.
It's just afternoon. It's not evening yet.
Oh, afternoon.
I've got another appointment this evening, and if it's evening, I'm in trouble.
Eric Payne, Executive Director of the Central Valley Urban Institute. We are a regional nonprofit that focuses on poverty alleviation between Kern County, Kings County, Tulare County, Fresno County, Madera County, and Stockton to the north. As we would like to celebrate your efforts and your hard work in Washington, D.C. to fight on behalf of the 16th Congressional District and all that you do to elevate our voices here in the Central Valley. I'm both thankful that you are both my personal congressional member as well as a champion for the work that we do in our region. So thank you.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Please proceed.
As we look at rural economic development and the nexus between the Farm Bill, we recognize that there are veterans who are freezing on our streets diabetics foregoing insulin due to skyrocketing prices, and millions working 2 and 3 jobs while remaining in poverty. These deplorable conditions are not inevitable. They are created by an unjust system. We can fix that system if we choose to do so. Just this past year, the number of Americans below the federal poverty line fell by nearly 45% as a result of coronavirus relief bills like the American Rescue Plan. Such results raise the questions, if we can cut poverty by 45%, why not shoot for 100%? Some of the things that we can begin to do is analyze and increase language access to better engage, outreach, educate, and better understand the diverse needs of our community, specifically among the native tongues of Punjabi and Southeast Asian community dialects, such as Hmong and Cambodian. Rural communities have seen a mass exodus of banks, negating their Community Reinvestment Act obligation, and it prevents current banking and mortgage-related discrimination, including but not limited to the discriminatory actions as a result of artificial intelligence and automated data analytics to better increase rural home ownership and small business opportunity by increasing access to capital for low to moderate income and low income based households. We can increase the appropriation for brownfield remediation and Superfund sites to increase and conserve ag land. We can provide development incentives for businesses that provide healthy foods, specifically grocery stores, farmers markets, in predominantly Black and brown neighborhoods to address increasingly prevalent fast food swamps and experiences of all people, regardless of ethnicity, race, gender, or sexual orientation. We can enact federal policy to adopt a K-12 Black Studies curriculum that introduces students to concepts of race and racial identity. We can accurately depict historic racial inequities and systemic racism that honors Black lives, fully represents the contributions of Black people in society, and advances the ideology of Black liberation. We can identify and address the impact of environmental racism on predominantly Black communities, including but not limited to unequal exposure to pollutants associated with roadway and heavy truck traffic, oil drilling, drinking water contamination, and current or former heavy industrial and other related pollutants in Black and brown neighborhoods. That requires funding and to fund planting of trees to create shade equity, and to minimize heat islands in Black and brown neighborhoods, and increase funding for wildfire mitigation, and to create a pathway for diversity to those that are formerly incarcerated within the forestry department.
Eric?
Yes.
I appreciate your passion. No, that's okay. I'm trying to be generous to everybody's time. I told one of the test witnesses earlier on that while my initials are JC, I can't make it rain. And you're going on some of the issues that will not be a part of the 2023 Farm Bill. And while I appreciate your passion, as always, want to try to confine your testimony to the Farm Bill, something that I can do, maybe something about. So if you...
To summarize my sentiments, increasing access to your SNAP program, specifically eliminating those barriers for those who are formerly incarcerated, to give them a leg up.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for all the witnesses here, we have a lot of interest. I have a lot of interest, but my focus today is on the Farm Bill next year. That's why I want to give everybody a chance to talk about that. And by the way, I think we have Denise and Shelley here representing Senator Feinstein's office, and Luis Martinez representing Senator Caballero's office, if you raise your hand so we all know you're here. Thank you. Lillian, you'll have to help me. Tao
Sao Chai.
Thao Chai.
Chai.
Okay,
It's
good.
the X and the Y, it trips everyone.
All right, that's okay. I'm learning every day, as I said. Representing Fresno Small Farms Program, right?
Yes.
Good.
Again, thank you for having us today, and thank you to all the representatives who are here. My name is Lillian Tao Sao Chai. I've been with the UC Cooperative Extension Small Farms Program for about 18 months now. My family have farmed in the Central Valley for over 30 years, and actually, I'm a 7th-generation farmer despite their best efforts to send me away to college. I have both a bachelor's and a master's degree from Stanford and UC Santa Cruz in anthropology. And they were like, how is this useful? Both for my family as well as my job. And one of the ways it's useful is that I'm able to talk about how our histories of resistance and revolution have a lot to do with our passion for the land and basically just the desire as refugees and immigrants.
It's your heritage. You know,
So
I mean, so
basically-
many of the farm families around here are immigrants past and immigrants present. It's
Yes.
part of your culture. And,
Absolutely,
And you know what they say, they can't take the farm girl out of the farm girl.
Yes, and our goal at the end of the day is to set down roots, is I think what I tell folks about all of the,
So let's focus on the farm bill.
yes, so all the communities who come to Fresno are interested in setting down roots, but in the Southeast Asian community, only 20% of folks actually own their farms. The rest of them lease land. So land access, as has been pointed out, is a tremendous issue going forward. But one thing that both the renters and the leasees that we work with have in common is difficulty getting over paperwork. So again, from anthropology, their literacy in their native languages is kind of hit or miss. They're more likely to read and write in English, but we could all use some help figuring out some of the legal jargon. And so that's been what my job has been at least the last 4 or 5 months, is helping folks navigate access through things like a grower whose water 2.5 weeks ago ran out of water. So even just figuring out how to get help for her home domestic water use as well as her farm, it took 2.5 weeks of just being on the phone constantly translating, and she was able to get water yesterday, so she doesn't have to haul water from another source. So again, I was hired through CDFA CUS funding, and there are 6 other community educators throughout the state at the moment. We speak a total of approximately 8 languages.
8?
Not including Spanish, or including Spanish, not including English, because that's what we all share in common. But again, we are wildly understaffed. There is a report due this to mark the 1 year.
Yeah, I'm very interested in getting that material submitted in the testimony.
When it's ready.
You're with the U.S. Ag Extension Service, right?
Yes, CDFA CUSP,
Yeah.
they will have the report.
And so you act as a translation and others with the Farm Services Agency, FSA?
No, we work with the UC Davis's Ag and Natural Resources, and so we're separate.
Okay.
And we're funded through CDFA's CUSP program.
But that's another barrier
That is.
and challenge that small farmers have with language barriers.
Yes. And I know in the last Farm Bill, there was a goal to understand why small-scale growers didn't access some of the federally available programs, especially made through the last Farm Bill. I hope that work continues. I'm happy to read, I'm excited to read that report actually in my new capacity. But I think as you mentioned earlier, right, none of us farm like the generation before us. That comes with a desire for change, but as well as a response to the times, like this drought.
Okay.
A lot of growers are changing the way they farm from like flood irrigation to drip.
Right.
And there are some struggles to understand both what is the science and what is the practice of this. My colleague Jesse will talk a little bit more about how the programs that exist pay for some of the funding, some of the needs, but not all of them. And so my particular ask is more staff or access to language for folks, because that's been one of the biggest hurdles, is just language access for individuals.
Thank you. Got it. Jesse Cantor
Yeah, thank
with
you.
UC Cooperative Extension, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You're at the Kearney Station?
Yes, I do a lot of work at Kearney.
I got to get out there here soon. I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, it's a good place. But yeah, my name is Jessie Cantor, and as mentioned, I work with UC Cooperative Extension Small Farms Program. So I work very closely with Lillian. And my background is in soil science, so I've helped with a lot of the implementation of some of these state and federal programs around soil conservation and how do we increase the health of our soils. And I think it's really important that there's funding for these programs in the Farm Bill reserved for historically underserved farmers. But again, kind of reiterating that this idea of representation without consideration for what resources someone might start with or access to language services is not quite getting at the equity piece that these programs require. And so again, increasing language barriers is one of the asks. And I think the other big thing too is thinking about how can these programs also include access to resources to implement some of these practices, so it's not just paying for compost or cover crop seeds or whatever it might be, but also how do they get the equipment and technical support needed to actually implement them. And then the other thing with that too is really honing in on the application process. Applications, while efforts have been made to streamline them, are still pretty onerous for small-scale, historically underserved farmers to access the benefits, and so hoping that that can also be taken into consideration. And then finally, as Lillian mentioned, a big thing is land access with a lot of these historically underserved farmers, and it's really hard to implement some of these conservation programs when you don't own your land, because something like building healthy soil takes a really long time. And so one of the things that we've talked about is, as mentioned before, as land is fallowed with drought, can we think about how to kind of repurpose some of this land? And I know conservation or putting it back into native habitat has been one of the things that's mentioned, but the other thing that we kind of invite you to think about as well is, can some of this land be transitioned to farmers who have historically not had access to land to plant more drought-tolerant or diversified cropping systems that use less resources but also benefit local community? So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'll have to get out there to the Kearney Station here sooner than later, maybe in August. I'll have some time. On this panel, last certainly but not least, is Dr. Ruth Dahlquist Willard, Small Farm Advisor, is that correct?
That's right. I'm a small farmers advisor with UC Cooperative Extension, and Jesse and Lillian also work with my program.
So you're out at the Kearney Station too?
We're actually based in Fresno County. We work out at Kearney a lot,
okay.
but we have an
Got it.
office in Fresno County
Yeah,
with
no,
Cooperative Extension.
Yeah.
So
When I was in 4-H, I used to visit that,
That's
just a
great.
few years ago.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I think that the previous speakers have given a really good big picture of the need for greater equity and inclusion and access in USD programs for small scale and socially disadvantaged farmers. And we all work as technical assistance providers for a number of different state and federal programs. And I think maybe I can comment on some of the details of those that could be improved for access. One of those is the crop insurance. So there's the NAP program, which has some of the farmers that we work with have been able to access, but not many, partly because it's one crop at a time and it doesn't work for a diversified farm. It's also often the reward for getting all the paperwork in isn't considered sufficient for the amount of work that it takes. There's also the Risk Management Agency Whole Farm Insurance, which is a newer program, which I think is very promising for diversified small-scale farms. And yet there's a gap in how to access it because it's not offered through the FSA office. So that's just one example of how maybe programs could be streamlined and improved with gaps identified and addressed, so that, like, there's this Whole Farm Insurance program, but it's through RMA, so you have to go through a private insurance agent. The FSA office can't necessarily recommend one over another, so there's a gap in technical assistance for how can farmers access that program. So that's something that could be addressed through more technical assistance or some kind of modifications to that program that would allow FSA staff to connect farmers to agents that can offer it. But just one example of how the devil's in the details of whether people can actually access the program. So I just want to mention that. I know there's been many conversations over the years about how to improve access, how to make programs more accessible. There's been a lot of technical assistance funded through the 2501 program and other programs like that. And sometimes it takes, I think, a lot of people sitting in a room and just hashing out the boring details of where the gaps are and where the barriers are to make the programs more accessible. So I just want to offer that we and our, also there's many nonprofit partners that can be brought into the conversation, are very willing to help with that if there's a desire for really looking at the programs and identifying how they can be better accessed by farmers that currently aren't in the loop as much.
Terrific. Appreciate it very much, all four of you. Thank you for your time and your testimony. And we'll move on here. Many of you have been waiting here since we started at 10 o'clock this morning, and you're probably wondering where we are in the lineup here. We're trying to go through it in an orderly fashion, and the title VII is Research and Extension, and for that we'll have Carol Chandler, who's been patient, and Keith Watkins, who I hope is still here, and Jim Parson. And that will deal with the research and extension. We have 3 witnesses there. And then we have forestry. And given all the challenges we had, I thought we'd have more folks here, but we have 1 witness on forestry on Title VIII. And then the big group is horticulture, obviously, specialty crops and the like. And we have a series of folks that are part of that, and we will be looking forward to hearing you. And then we have Title 11 and 12, but we're getting there. So be patient. And Carol Chandler, let's begin with you. You've worn many hats over the years, and you and I have worked together on a whole lot of different stuff. Please begin.
Yes, we have. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm Carol Chandler. I farm with my family in the Selma area. We grow citrus, almonds, and wine grapes. And I'm here today as a board member of the Western Growers and to talk about and focus on 3 areas. The first being our labor situation and the lack of and cost of available farm labor has caused us to look for assistance in the Farm Bill. And I know the House of Representatives has already passed a bipartisan immigration bill, which is awaiting Senate action. But we believe the Farm Bill needs to dramatically spur on innovation around automating harvest and farm labor in our sector. For example, on our farm, we've had to transition away from high labor crops like raisin grapes and tree fruit in order to go to more mechanized able to harvest more mechanized crops. And so private companies in the fresh produce industry have taken it upon themselves to fund research, such as Western Growers with their Innovation Center in the Salinas area, where we identify startup companies working on labor-saving technologies. Our sector is heavily engaged and highly motivated, but frankly, the speed of innovation is not fast enough. And we want to be sure innovation reaches producers of all sizes and crops. Secondly, innovation in crop protection products is important to us. Our community needs assistance in the production, in the product development, both in terms of conventional products, but also non-conventional crop protection products. It appears that a major focus within the world of crop protection is to develop non-conventional, biologically based products. That's where lots of the research is headed. We cannot wait 10, 15, or 20 years for new non-conventional crop protection tools. We need to be part of the cutting edge there to have more tools in our toolbox. Again, the Farm Bill has programs to help assist in that type of research, but more needs to be done. Finally, we know that Congress is looking to determine ways to make the Farm Bill safety net more effective in order to reduce the size and scope of disaster programs. For the produce industry, that means a focus on crop insurance. For some of our industry who have products, we'll want to work with Congress to make those products more effective, such as covering shallower losses for orchard crops with insurance policies. For those crops that do not have any crop insurance, products for individual crops. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Keith Watkins.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the time to speak today, Chairman Costa. I'm here representing the California citrus industry. My name is Keith Watkins. I'm a citrus grower and vice president of farming for Be Sweet Citrus in Fowler, with operations in Fresno, Tulare, Kern, San Luis Obispo, and Imperial counties. I also serve as Vice Chairman of the California Citrus Mutual, a board member and treasurer of the Citrus Pest and Disease Prevention Committee, and a past board member of the Citrus Research Board. We appreciate you coming to Fresno to hear the needs of citrus growers and the agriculture industry as we struggle to maintain global competitiveness and safe, affordable food for a healthy diet. The single greatest challenge facing the U.S. citrus industry is the deadly disease citrus greening, Huanglongbing, or HLB. In Florida, the presence of HLB in commercial citrus groves has led to the removal of hundreds of thousands of acres and a decline in production capacity from roughly 250 million boxes to around 50 million boxes today. Florida was once the nation's largest citrus producing state. Now that with HLB present, Florida citrus growers and rural economies are faced with extreme hardship, and only solution is to find a cure. Here in California, we have been fortunate to keep HLB out of commercial citrus orchards through the diligent work of the Citrus Pest and Disease Prevention Committee, the Citrus Division of the California Department of Food and Agriculture, industry partners, extensive education, and outreach programs. The outreach programs and cooperative growers and residents in Southern California, where the disease is confirmed and spreading in residential areas. The citrus industry is diligently working to prevent the movement of Asian citrus psyllids, ACP, the vector that transmits HLB from one quarantine area to another. B-Sweet Citrus ourselves, we've invested over $1.3 million to build a wash line on the Central Coast that we could treat the citrus before moving it here to the San Joaquin Valley so we wouldn't move ACP to minimize the risk. A vital part of the fight against HLB comes from the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill supports the Citrus Disease Subcommittee and dedicated $25 million per year to the USDA NIFA to bring top researchers across the country to find a cure. On behalf of the California citrus industry, I respectfully request that funding for the important program be continued in the upcoming Farm Bill. We desperately need a cure, which is the focus of the NIFA funding and the ultimate solution that can restore the lost production and maintain the competitiveness of the U.S. citrus industry. We greatly appreciate the support and cooperation of Congress and our administrative partners, and we look forward to continuing this vital public-private partnership in the future. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Watkins, and representing California's citrus industry in so many facets that you enumerated. I know over the 18 years, and then even before then, the importance that these disease programs have played in terms of trying to deal with eradication of various kinds, not only of diseases, but like med flies and other challenges that we have felt. You know Mr. Casey Creamer?
Yes, I do.
Do you think he does a pretty good job?
I'm not sure if he works for us or I work for him sometimes, but yeah.
I think he does a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. Mr. Jim Parson, you're the last in this panel, and then we're going to get to horticulture here. Folks, be patient, be patient. Mr. Parsons.
Good afternoon, Congressman Costa. I appreciate you being here today. I want to include research. I think Mr. Watkins was talking about it, and it's important to me also. I do raise citrus, but I am a grain farmer, dryland grain farmer. I am the third generation here on the farm. The fourth generation is at home harvesting and working. Of course, I'm working also.
Yes.
It seems like research never gets the funding that it should. It seems like I'm always coming back to DC to get more funding for research. It seems like it always gets the short end of the stick in the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill says that it can have so much monies, but they never get it to them. For some reason, it is not fully funded. This last year, I think I'm not sure, it just got a lot more funding than it has in the past. And I do appreciate that.
We're trying.
That's good. The other thing I want to talk about is crop insurance. I use it. I wish it was a little more lucrative in the wheat.
Yeah.
And I understand why some of the areas that I farm in, I can't get crop insurance. I put up with it. I don't like
Right.
it, but I put up with it. But that's the nature of farming.
Yes, it is.
And there's some of us down there that aren't doing it. I am going to say that I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I'm glad that Congress and the Senate has seen to put money towards getting the Frank Kern Canal repaired.
Long
It
overdue,
is
yeah.
going on.
Been working on that for a while.
Yeah. Yes, you have. I want to thank you for being here today. I do appreciate.
Makes it easier than you having to come to Washington.
Well, it's cheaper, let's put it that way.
That too, that too. No, I come home almost every weekend. This is home. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Parsons. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
And whether it's in Washington or here, I'm always there. Okay?
Okay, you'll probably see me next September.
All right. I'll look forward to it. I look forward to it. All right. For those of you who are on the horticulture panel, we have forestry, but the good news is we only have one person on the forestry unit. So you're Mr. Tim Border?
Tim Borden.
Borden, okay, with Save the Redwoods League, and we've got some legislation. We're working on that as we speak.
Yes, we do. And I'd love to speak to some of that today, too, because I think it could be part of the Farm Bill. So thank you for having us here. I'm Tim Borden, Sequoia Restoration and Stewardship Manager for Save the Redwoods League, and I'm representing our nonprofit and the Giant Sequoia Lands Coalition, which are dedicated to protecting the globally unique giant sequoia. Today, wildfires exacerbated by drought, climate change, and practices of fire exclusion are occurring at a frequency and severity that, if allowed to continue at the current rate, could wipe out our irreplaceable and magnificent giant sequoia groves. Today's wildfires are killing large, mature trees, which is largely unprecedented. Since 2020, we have lost 20% of all giant sequoia on the planet to fire. We know what to do to meet this emergency. The League and our partners have advocated for multiple solutions. One, we must allocate the funding and resources needed to conduct fuel reduction treatments based on silvicultural and ecological goals, prescribed burns, and cultural burns led by Indigenous practitioners. Two, we need more time in the calendar year where forest treatments, pile burning, and broadcast burning is acceptable. Three, federal agencies need an increased ability to quickly share resources in the form of skilled people, equipment, and materials. Four, we need a streamlined permitting process for the Endangered Species Act and the National Historic Preservation Act, while upholding species protection and cultural resource protection. Five, we need a paid, on-call, skilled workforce for active management and prescribed fire available year-round. And six, our society needs to recognize and support the wisdom and skill of Indigenous communities in forest stewardship and cultural burning. We need their stewardship active on the land with fewer barriers to access. I'd like to submit this brief, Save Our Giant Sequoias, Emergency Actions for 2022-2023, which outlines those solutions in depth into the record for this listening session. So on to the answer. House Resolution 8168, the Save Our Sequoia Act, recently introduced and co-sponsored by yourself, includes these provisions and is the solution to the crisis. This is the blueprint to follow. The provisions outlined in it should be considered a priority for inclusion in the 2023 Farm Bill. The Save Our Sequoia Act is supported by a broad range of environmental groups, including the Tule River Indian Tribe, Environmental Defense Fund, Center for Climate and Energy Solutions, Outdoor Industry Association, and Save the Redwoods League. It also includes supporters from the broader agricultural community, including the Association of California Water Agencies, California Cattlemen's Association, California Farm Bureau, and the California Forestry Association. This bipartisan group of supporters understands the cascading benefits of protecting these groves and the surrounding forests. This bill would help prevent the catastrophic wildfires that have plagued California, provide safe, consistent sources of water for our neighbors, including those in the farming and ranching communities, and provides the best drinking water in the world. It will provide cleaner air to breathe to our. There is a reason visitors to the Fresno airport emerge into a giant sequoia grove. In conclusion, we need to include the provisions in House Resolution 8168, the Save Our Sequoia Act, into the 2023 Farm Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tim Borden, for your advocacy, and we'll submit that for the record, and please bring that forward. You know, I think any of us who've ever spent any time with sequoia, redwoods, wherever the groves you visited, humbles you when you put it all in perspective. And we had a bipartisan group visiting a grove that I had not visited before, and it was a good experience, and we do have bipartisan support, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to move that forward. Thank you. All right, our next group here are folks that have been waiting very patiently. Panel 10, Title 10 of the Farm Bill, although I suspect with horticulture and specialty crops, you'll have some other things you'll want to mention, but try to keep it within 3 minutes. Ian LeMay, representing California Fresh Fruit Association. Bill Smitkamp, representing Wawona Frozen Foods. Kimberly Halding, representing the American Olive Producers Association. John Burborn, representing Belmont Nursery. Let's see, we got some more folks here. Some are going to have to sit in the seats right behind there, and we'll go. Melissa Cregan, our Fresno County Ag Commissioner. Jane Sobey, representing CCOF, Outreach and Policy. And then we have 2 witnesses. Hopefully one of them can cover the field from the Burroughs Family Orchards. And I've got, I'll let them decide which one of the individuals wants to testify. Ben and Montes are my handwriting, my reading of the handwriting is not that good, clearly. Let's begin. Okay, you guys switched up the order on me. Mr. Smitkamp, Bill, please begin. Then followed by Ian LeMay and Kimberly and John and our Ag Commissioner, and we'll just make it work. And Jane. Mr. Smitkamp.
Congressman Costa and team, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about the Farm Bill 2023. Gives me great opportunity to talk to you. I'm Bill Smitkamp, President and CEO of Wawona Frozen Foods, located right here in Fresno County.
Third generation.
I'm second, my kids are third, and my grandchildren that are working right now are fourth.
Good.
So thank you. At Wawona Frozen Foods, we grow and process over 125 million pounds. And for the past 35 years, excuse me, we have been honored to partner with the USDA, serving families and specifically the USDA National School Lunch Program, providing over 100 million frozen fruit cups annually to the school program. We believe households are best served when they have access to all forms of nutritious foods. We know that the USDA nutrition programs have been successful in bringing fresh foods to the recipients. However, there is an opportunity to include and promote frozen foods to enhance these programs and help ensure families have access to high-quality nutrition throughout the year, regardless of their geographic location. Number 1, feeding programs intend to increase produce consumption, should promote all forms of produce, fresh, frozen, canned, and dried. And I would be remiss if I didn't say American grown. Speaking of frozen fruit industry, we believe we are the safety net for the fresh industry. Ourselves, as well as 65 outside growers that deliver to Wawona Frozen Foods and fresh packing houses, consider that the freezing is a natural pause button for the fruit. Data indicates that many consumers do not eat more produce because they do not know how to prepare it. Frozen vegetables are peeled, trimmed, ready to cook with easy-to-follow cooking instructions. In addition, research shows that the nutritional value of frozen fruits and vegetables are equal to, and in some cases, better. Fresh Frozen promotes a sustainable food system, especially one that minimizes food waste. Frozen foods are critical to fighting food waste due to the frozen shelf life and pre-portioned servings that help individuals prepare the appropriate amount for each meal. We often hear also, and number 3, we often hear due to the lack of freezing and freezer capacity across the nation, schools, food banks, and pantries, that these outlets don't have the capacity that we need to have. In conclusion, we would just like to make sure that the language in the Farm Bill accepts all forms, and that we also try to build out and get infrastructure for freezers in our local food banks across the nation.
I think those are all good suggestions, and your family have been tremendous advocates over the years. I was able to get some donations of some of these frozen containers or trucks to some of our food banks in past years. There were surplus that were being recycled from grocery operations and other operations, and those have worked out fine, but we do need to increase the capacity, and I will continue to do whatever I can on my end.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Ian LeMay, California Fresh Fruit Association. Good to have you here.
Appreciate it. Good afternoon. My name is Ian LeMay, and I serve as the president of the California Fresh Fruit Association. CFA represents growers and shippers of 13 permanent fresh fruit commodities here in the state of California. Those commodities are peaches, plums, nectarines, apricots, table grapes, apples, pears, persimmons, pomegranates, blueberries, cherries, figs, and kiwis. Our growers are based as far as Lake County in the north and as far south as Coachella Valley, and we've been advocating on their behalf for 86 years. We appreciate the opportunity to make comments today regarding the 2023 Farm Bill. It goes without saying that the Farm Bill is an extremely important piece of legislation for our members, and with each reauthorization brings with it renewed hope and expectation for our industry. At a minimum, it is our members' belief that Congress should approach this reauthorization with a goal of maintaining baseline funding. But in all truth, we know that U.S. growers deserve a bolstering of resources that can help propel our industry towards a sustainable and competitive future. Global consumers rely and trust the U.S. agriculture industry more than any other agriculture production region in the world. The production of our food and fiber is not only a national security issue, but a global security issue. We have the opportunity to fortify that security with a reauthorization, and it is CFA's hope that Congress will be bold enough to make the meaningful investment necessary to meet that moment. We have comments on multiple titles today. With regards to Title I, the California Fresh Fruit Association is a proponent of the creation of a permanent disaster relief program that is with a focus on our changing climate and the way it impacts California growers. Title II, California Fresh Fruit is a proponent of the continuance of funding for programs like EQIP, which has helped us create efficiencies in our irrigation and other conservation practices. As it was stated earlier, with regards to Title III, we are a proponent of the doubling of MAP funding. It is an overprescribed program, but one that has significant success, and one that requires equal, if not more, investment from industries like ours so that we can go out and market our fresh, nutritious produce across the globe. Nutrition was touched on today. We are proponents of the fortifying and bolstering of SNAP as well as TFAP. Just this year, California Stone Fruit has been a recipient of a Section 32 purchase, which has been extremely helpful and pivotal as we have continued to have slowdowns at the ports and have created inability for us to move our fruit on a global scale. One fix to Section 32 and TFAP would be, instead of a low-cost bid award, we would like to see through the Farm Bill a change to a best value assessment. We think that one that would create a supply of better quality produce into the programs, but also in turn help to foster and fortify growers who are sending fruit into those programs. With regards to research, to invest in our collective industry. And lastly, on Title XI, which is crop insurance, it has been an imperative tool for our commodity sector, and one in which we would like to see the continuance of, the fortifying of funding for, as well as the availability of expanding crop insurance to multiple commodities. Again, we'll submit further comment into the written record, but appreciate the opportunity to comment.
And we always look forward to the further information and material you can provide us. You've done good, Ian. Proud of you. Give your family my best.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right. Next, Kimberly Halding, another family operation, but representing today the American Olive Oil Producers Association. And I did not realize you're now president and CEO. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Costa. My name is Kimberly Holding. I am the president and CEO of the American Olive Oil Producers Association. Congressman Costa, on behalf of the American Olive Oil Producers Association members, we would like to thank you for your continued support of our industry. And today, I would really like to share with you some tremendous news and a milestone for us. After 2 years of collaborating with our organization, the North American Olive Oil Association, that represents importers, and DeOlio, the largest producer of olive oil in the world, yesterday we submitted a Standard of Identity citizens petition to the FDA for the first ever mandatory olive oil standard in the U.S.
Hooray.
Yes, it has been a tremendous amount of work, but our farmers know that consumers' trust in the olive oil which they purchase is absolutely paramount to driving demand, which will increase investment in our U.S. olive oil industry and throughout rural communities in the U.S. So we truly see this as a win-win for consumers and farmers alike if the FDA will adopt this. Thank you for indulging me. I will now turn to my comments to the Farm Bill. We're continuing to review our opportunities for our growers in the 2023 Farm Bill and look forward to submitting some additional comments at a later date. But I would like to highlight that the specialty crop research programs and the specialty crop research initiative program specifically continues to be vital to supporting the growth of our U.S. olive oil industry. I will take a moment to echo Richard Matoyan's comments regarding the matching funds and the rules that changed when the implementation of the last Farm Bill came in partway through the grant cycle actually required us to withdraw our petition and not be able to submit a full grant because it was impossible for us to come up with those matching funds. Right. So that's a really important fix that we look forward to in this cycle. As well, important tools such as risk management and recovery tools like crop insurance, and for our growers outside of California that do not have the crop insurance availability, especially the NAP and TAP programs, are incredibly important for them. Although olives are positioned, as you know, as a drought-tolerant crop and use only part of the water that many other tree crops use, we still face challenges, especially when it comes to freeze. Although our farmers utilize all the tools available to them, they fall short in a year like this, in which we anticipate losses to exceed $30 million because of the devastating freeze that occurred in our state at the end of February. I understand that the House Appropriations Committee passed disaster assistance placeholder language for $10 million for disasters occurring in 2022. I would implore you and the committee to support an increase in funding and provide permanent disaster relief to include freeze damage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. And John, you're next.
Thank you, John Reelhorn. Belmont Nursery, Fresno, California. I'm representing American Hort, our national nursery association. I serve as vice chairman. Thank you for letting the Landscape and Nursery Association be a part of this hearing, as we talk an awful lot about food, but I want to remind us all that trees and flowers and shrubs in our landscapes are certainly part of our crops here in California. California is the top state in horticultural sales, selling $2.6 billion in farm gate value in 2019. Our industry does what we can to step up and address practical and applied research and development challenges through our own research and foundation, the Horticultural Research Institute. However, long-term and more basic needs exceed our capacity to self-fund, and we look to key federal programs for leverage and partnership. A few of the programs that have supported our industry in California and throughout the nation include the Specialty Crop Research Initiative, the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, and the successful Plant Pest and Disease Management and Disaster Prevention Program, as well as the National Clean Plant Network. I would concur with the pistachio and the olive message here that virtually all USDA-administered grant programs that require the awards to be matched at some level is a challenge to us. And so fixing that would be very appropriate. And finally, finding ways to mitigate pest and disease is a top priority for the horticulture industry. The National Clean Plant Network is a major success story, now considered as crucial infrastructure serving high-value crop sectors with high-consequence pathogen threats. Improved access to clean plants for nursery crops such as tree fruit, citrus, berries, grapes, and roses enhances the competitiveness of these sectors, benefiting growers, entire market chains, and ultimately American consumers. As we, as an industry of stakeholders, intend to advance policy and funding proposals in the context of the next Farm Bill that allows clean plant centers to continue to serve the grower community into the future.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it, and we'll continue this conversation. Our own, very own Fresno County Ag Commissioner, Melissa Cregan, and help me wind up here because we've got about 4 more witnesses, and let's stay on time.
All right, I'll try to be within time. Good morning, or actually good afternoon at this point now, Chairman Costa. My name is Melissa Cregan. I am the Fresno County Ag Commissioner and Sealer of Weights and Measures. Today, I have the privilege to be representing all of California's 58 counties through our professional association, the California Agricultural Commissioners and Sealers Association. CACASA is requesting your favorable consideration for 2 important policies for the 2023 Farm Bill. First, the Plant Protection Act. Chairman Costa, your leadership was instrumental in developing bipartisan support in the U.S. House and passing language in the 2008 Food Conservation and Energy Act that amended the Plant Protection Act and initiated a pest and disease program that has been incredibly successful. The program was continued in the 2014 and 2018 Farm Bills. Congress authorizes a total of $750 million in the 10-year budget baseline for these programs. USDA is required to make the funds available from the Commodity Credit Corporation in the amount of $75 million per year beginning in fiscal year 2018 and each fiscal year thereafter. The program is administered by USDA Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. Each year, states, universities, and other stakeholders enter into cooperative agreements with APHIS to receive funds for peer-reviewed targeted projects that identify high-risk pest pathways and are used to support the U.S. Comprehensive Coordinated Network of local, state, and federal partners combating pests and diseases. Since fiscal year 2018, the total funding requested for pests and disease projects submitted to USDA APHIS fiscal year. Given the program's overwhelming success, we are urging Congress to authorize the Plant Protection Act program at $100 million each year. Second, you may have noticed we have one of our best 4-legged inspectors here with us today. Brody, he's a little hyper this morning, alongside his very capable handler, Caitlin DeMont. Brody and Caitlin work in Fresno County and will work in surrounding counties, including Tulare, Merced, and Stanislaus. Each day, Brody and Caitlin, along with 12 other teams throughout California, conduct interior agricultural canine inspections in warehouses, mail and package facilities to detect a range of invasive pests and diseases like citrus greening and fruit flies and other prohibited agricultural items. This team just returned from the USDA National Detector Dog Training Center in Noonan, Georgia. It takes 7 weeks and up to $25,000 to conduct initial training for both a dog and its handler, and over 2 months of acclimation work before the team becomes fully functional once they return home. That's why we believe it is imperative that the U.S. funds, builds, and maintains the infrastructure pipeline necessary to provide an adequate supply of dogs and handlers needed to focus on interior U.S. pathways to protect our nation's agricultural industry and the environment. There is tremendous need for a more formalized, domestically focused agricultural canine inspection program with an adequate, standalone, mandatory authorized level of annual funding. We appreciate your consideration and look forward to future dialogues on these policies.
Let's talk more about this, okay?
Absolutely.
What's the dog's name?
Brody.
Is Brody going to testify?
Well, Brody would love to meet you afterwards, but I think he snuck in a little testimony earlier, and I apologize for that.
Okay. Well, that qualifies. Jane Soothby. Jane, please come forward. And then we have, I don't know who's going to determine to testify. Thank you, Bill. Between the Burroughs Family Orchards, but we'll have one of you, but we can't have both of you. Time does not allow. Okay, Jane?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Congressman Costa, for hosting this really important listening session. It's been fascinating, and a lot of important topics have been discussed. I'm Jane Suby with California Certified Organic Farmers, CCOF. We represent 3,000 organic farms, ranches, dairies, and food businesses across the United States, across California, and another U.S.
And growing.
Yes, indeed. It's one of our big points. We hope that the 2023 Farm Bill expands USDA's support for organic because organic farming and ranching have key roles to play in meeting the demands of our modern food system, as you know. Because organic food must be grown and raised using ecological methods and biological inputs, organic farming and ranching is climate smart and resilient agriculture. Organic practices sequester carbon, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and build healthy soils, as shown by data collected by long-term comparison studies at UC Davis. You may be interested to know that the top organic commodity in California is dairy, and various specialty crops fill in the rest of the top 10. California is the largest organic producer in the United States and accounts for 36% of organic production. Consumer demand for organic products is strong and growing. Here in California, organic ag commodity sales were $12 billion in 2020, and in 2021, organic processed products reached sales of $34.5 billion. It's a little-known fact. We are excited to hear more about USDA's vision for an organic transition program that provides farmers with more tools for going organic and how such a program will fit into the Farm Bill. Organic represents an economic opportunity that more and more farmers are interested in pursuing. To support and expand organic production, our Farm Bill priorities include increasing organic certification cost share reimbursements. Certification cost share has been an important tool in making certification affordable for small-scale and socially disadvantaged producers. Providing financial, educational, and technical support for farmers and ranchers who wish to transition to organic. Building small-scale and organic livestock slaughter infrastructure. And significantly increased funding for organic research, education, and technical assistance, which will benefit all farmers. You know, this is probably the most important farm bill that we've seen in our lifetimes. The next 6 years will be critical in addressing the climate and economic challenges we face. Farmers and ranchers are hardworking and innovative. We've got to build on that innovation and come up with creative solutions, putting organic farming at the forefront. Thank you very much.
And I couldn't agree with you more. Keep up your good work. Last on this panel is the Burroughs Family Orchards, and you're...
Benina.
I'm sorry?
Benina Montez.
Glad to meet you.
You too. I think you've
Please
spoken with
begin.
my folks.
Yes, I have.
Well, thank you for hosting this.
You have a passionate mother.
That's right. You know it. You don't forget her. I'm a farmer from Merced County, and we raise organic almonds, walnuts, olives, and sheep on 1,200 acres. We've been farming organically for over 17 years and are the first certified regenerative organic almond farm in the world. We follow five principles: no or low tillage, keeping the soil covered, having diversity, not using synthetic pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers, and integrating grazing livestock. I'm here to speak on behalf of Regenerate America, a national bipartisan coalition of farmers, businesses, nonprofits, and individuals Alongside thousands of farmers and ranchers across the country, we're asking you to make soil health and regenerative ag a primary focus in the 2023 Farm Bill, which we've heard many times today. We would specifically ask that you support these 6 soil health-focused and regenerative policies that will expand leading education, technical service, and implementation assistance for soil health systems, ensure equitable opportunity and access to all USDA programs, improve regional access to infrastructure, processing, and markets, increase access to healthy and regionally sourced food, and increase farmland preservation and access, including for historically underserved producers, and remove barriers and incentivize soil health and risk reduction through federal crop insurance and lending. I've seen the benefits of soil health and regenerative farm agriculture on our operation, including increased resilience, not just economic, also reduced erosion and impacts from drought and pests, increased climate resilience and biodiversity, and increased soil organic matter. For example, our increase in soil organic matter in the past year has led to an increase in water holding capacity on our farm of more than 4 million gallons. Our entire coalition is ready to work with you on the Farm Bill, and I appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you for your testimony. We look forward to working with you and the organic farming throughout the country. And please give your mom and dad my regards there in Merced County, and I still hope to get up there and see it.
Anytime, you're welcome.
Okay.
Can I just add one quick thing? Years ago when we were at the farmer's market, some of these programs where people came with cards to be able to purchase food, I think it was through like EBT. Fresh fruits and vegetables were on there, but we had meat, we had almonds, we had olive oil and eggs, and none of those products were able to be purchased through the card. And I'm not sure if that has been changed, but that was just one
I think there
comment.
have been modifications to that, but let us get back to you on that, please.
I just wanted to make sure because
No,
at the time I was like,
we'll
this
follow
is
up and get back to you. We've got your card here.
awesome. Thank you.
Okay? Okay, a gentleman who's been waiting very patiently here, Mr. James Johansson, President of the California Farm Bureau, of which I and so many other thousands of farmers in California are members of. And he's checked conservation and trade programs, but representing California Farm Bureau, he could speak on all 12 titles of the Farm Bill. And it's good to have you here, and thank you for your patience. And a regular back in Washington, D.C., and testify with some regularity before the House committee there as well.
Thank you, Congressman. And thanks to Chairman Scott for allowing you to have this hearing out here. I am Jamie Johansson, President of the California Farm Bureau. I'm also a farmer up in Butte County, farm olives and citrus. Speaking on crop insurance and as well as bringing in disaster relief programs, California's farmers and ranchers and foresters are all too familiar with changing weather conditions, including, but not limited to, changing hydraulic conditions that result in cyclical, reoccurring drought and catastrophic wildfire that are burning more intensely and no longer limited to a season. Excuse me. With the impacts of disaster only intensifying, disaster and crop insurance programs have been an essential part of keeping farmers whole. With such a diverse set of commodities and practices in California, we must remain focused on improving and expanding these programs. As of May 22nd, the Congressional Research Service estimated that only about 80 specialty crops were covered through crop insurance programs from the roughly 400 agricultural commodities grown here in California. We must find solutions to overcome limitations inherent in the current system and provide RMA with the necessary tools and structures they need to close this gap. Additionally, California Farm Bureau supports adequate funding levels for programs such as ELAP, Livestock Indemnity Program, Livestock Forage Disaster Program, and Tree Assistance Program, Dairy Margin Coverage Programs, and others. We also should recognize, too, in highlighting the only 80 of the 400 crops grown in California being covered, the difficulties of getting crop insurance for these crops covered here. We were happy to see a pilot program started in Florida for strawberries introduced in California. In meeting with the RMA administrator and other crop insurance salespeople, we're disappointed to hear that that program has not been well received in terms of people signing up. And certainly it is because, as we know in agriculture, and as what we certainly know in California agriculture, one size doesn't fit all. So we need those resources to adjust these crops, not just to how they're grown in the Southeast or in the Midwest, but how we farm in California. As you've heard continually too, those crops that aren't covered depend on the whole farm plan. a very difficult program to understand, one that isn't readily available unless there's been recent change in terms of the number of crop insurance agents who deal with that program. But we need to continue to simplify that program to make up to cover that hole that exists for a lot of us in the specialty crop world there as well. So with that, thank you for your time. I do want to throw in there too that the crop insurance program should be for risk management based on markets and production on the farm, historical farmland production. We are very much in favor, and we have a lot of thoughts on the conservation program and expanding those, and certainly no one is more active in conservation programs offered through the Farm Bill than the California farmer. In fact, one of the most popular one is EQIP. Been around for a while and greatly utilized by California farmers. In 2020 alone, 408,000 acres, treated acres under the EQIP program were in California, and there were 1,473 active EQIP programs in California. Those two are separate titles, and they're separate titles for a reason. And so going back to the crop insurance, we must preserve the integrity of the crop insurance program while also expanding our conservation program. And I know it was mentioned earlier up here that maybe the two could meet, but we'd be strongly against that we maintain the integrity of the crop insurance program as a risk management tool.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Jamie, for that good testimony and pointing that out. I think it's important as we go forward. And I know that we're going to continue to work together as a leader on behalf of California Agriculture and the California Farm Bureau. We'll look forward to your continuing input as we set the table for next year's Farm Bill reauthorization. And I always am excited when you and your friends come to Washington, but it's a little easier today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we have two last witnesses on Title 12 on miscellaneous, and I'd like them to come forward. And if you'll be kind enough to, we have Karen Rodriguez from the Kiss the Ground VP Program Operations, which is based in Los Angeles, and I have never heard before the Kiss the Ground VP program. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Actually, we have two witnesses. Are you going to both cover? Because, all right. And Mr. Ryland Engelhardt. You can stay forward there if you want to add a couple comments, but the last but certainly not least, thank you for being here and coming from all the way from Los Angeles.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time and for making this listening session happen. My name is Ryland Engelhardt, and I am one of the co-founders and the executive director of a nonprofit organization called Kiss the Ground.
Mr. Engelhardt, could you pause for a moment? Sure. For all of you who have been here, I would be remiss if I did not thank the House Ag Committee staff who have come here, and you see them kind of skirling because they're trying to catch I think it's a 2 o'clock or 2:30 flight, so they have to get back on their plane, but Lisa and Victoria and Daniel, and I'm probably leaving some, Don Grady's lookalike, Paul, and Faisal, who sat next to me last night. Thank all of you. Let's give them a round of applause for, obviously, without their participation, we couldn't make this possible. Have a safe flight back to Washington, and I'll see you next week. I'm sorry, Mr. Engelhardt, please go ahead.
Thank you. So, as I said, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit organization started in Los Angeles called Kiss the Ground. Our mission is to awaken people to the possibilities of regeneration, specifically focused on the importance of healthy soil and regenerative agriculture as the basis of a healthy infrastructure for a society.